U.S. has officially struck southern Iran as Iran vows response. Now we wait. Now we wait to see how hard Iran strikes, what Iran strikes. U.S. forces launched strikes against Iranian air defenses and radar installations in southern Iran Tuesday, with CENTCOM confirming the operation was carried out under direct orders from Trump. A U.S. official told Al Jazeera and Fox News that the strikes are ongoing. Yeah. Donald Trump was asked how what he would like for his birthday, which is so crazy. We're like talking about the president like he's a little baby, but I guess it's because he is a little baby. He is a little baby. So that's why a little baby needs to be treated like a little baby. Anyway, let's hear what he had to say.
Besides peace in the Middle East, what do you wish yourself for your birthday?
For my birthday? Well...
Why isn't he just mediocre? Why not an actual politician like Summer Lee or even Chris Rabb? Neither of which have ever expressed any interest in higher office like that.
I'll go a step bigger.
They're also not like national politicians. They're not nationally known politicians in the same way that some of these other people are.
Peace for the world, okay? Peace for the world. Well, I'll go a step bigger. Peace for the world, okay? Peace for the world. Middle East, yes. Peace for the whole world, yeah.
Question, besides peace in the Middle East.
Literally the one guy on the planet that could make that wish a reality and chooses not to, fantastic. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for simply wishing for your birthday, peace for the world, but then also not doing it, It's literally in his power. There's there's not a lot of people on this planet that could wish for something like that and actually have the capacity to follow through. Donald Trump is the one guy who could do it. Yeah, I want peace in the world. That's why we're bombing desalination plants in Iran right now. Very cool. 20,000 people's water has just been taken away from them. They're now starving. They're thirsty, and it's beautiful. And that's why I want peace in the world. Anyway. Incredible stuff from Donald Trump. Obviously, completely oblivious to his own power. Yeah, let's. We got Brad Lander. We'll talk about that in a second. Obviously, there's a really funny Wall Street Journal article that I brought up on iHip News this morning, but we got to talk about it. Smartphones, EVs, and brick oven pizza. North Korea is the world's most unlikely economic growth story. Yeah. But let's get started on U.S. launching strikes on Iran, after downing of Apache helicopter, the impact, what this means for the future of this conflict, where we're at, and more. Let's get started.
New attacks in the ceasefire with Iran. American forces are targets this morning after the U.S. retaliated for an Apache chopper that Iran shot down. Iran released this video claiming it launched missiles toward U.S. allies in the region. Charlie D'Agata is intel. None of this sounds like we are getting closer to peace like we have been hearing.
Right, not at all. Iran went on the attack today, launching strikes toward U.S. bases and facilities in Kuwait, Bahrain, even neighboring Jordan. And we're also learning a little bit more about that drone used to rescue the Apache helicopters, the pilots. U.S. Navy officials say an unmanned Navy Corsair drone like this raced to the rescue of the stricken Apache helicopter crew before the Iranians could reach them, in a first for the U.S. military. The soldiers were transported from hostile waters to a safer place before being hoisted up by helicopter. In another first, we've learned the helicopter was downed by an Iranian exploding drone, an unprecedented strike on an advanced U.S. aircraft. In retaliation, U.S. officials tell CBS News that U.S. Navy and Air Force fighter jets launched widespread airstrikes against Iranian targets along the Strait of Hormuz, including air defenses, ground control stations, and surveillance radar sites. U.S. Central Command sent out a statement that its forces completed self-defense strikes, suggesting the proportional U.S. military response is over, at least for now. Iran, in turn, launched its own retaliatory strikes, sending a salvo of ballistic missiles towards U.S. facilities across the region. Jordan alone reported shooting down 5 missiles aimed at an airbase hosting American forces. Tehran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, warning on social media, quote, despite its defeats on the battlefield, the U.S. opted to test our determination. Leave our region if you want to be safe.
All right, Charlie, just hours before these strikes happened, Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife sat down with Robert Costa for a CBS Sunday Morning interview. Now, the vice president insisted a deal with Iran is still close. We want to play a bit of that and get your take on it. Let's listen.
Right now, I feel that we are in a position to get a deal that is good for the United States economically and that really does deal with the Iranian nuclear program, not just now, not just while Donald Trump is president, but for the long term, to where my kids can say when they're adults, Iran is not going to have a nuclear weapon. That's the goal of the policy, and I think we're very close to achieving that goal, but we've still got some wood to chop, and we're going to keep doing it.
You say very close. How soon? Could the deal happen before the midterm elections?
Oh, absolutely. No, I think we're going to know a lot before the midterm elections. Look, I think that the deal could happen in the next week, but the deal could also happen months from now.
Are the Iranians stringing President Trump along, in your view?
No, I don't think so. Again, I think their system takes a long time to reach consensus. I always hear people ask me, do you trust the Iranians? And what the president has said is, I don't trust anybody. I don't trust anybody. What I do trust is my own ability to negotiate. I trust our administration's ability to negotiate.
Could be in the next couple of days, could be in the next couple of weeks, it could be in a month. Charlie, it seems that there's a disconnect between what the administration is saying about those talks and what's actually happening on the ground. What do you make of this?
Yeah, Vlad, clearly there's a disconnect. None of this can help. We're talking about a downed helicopter, multiple U.S. airstrikes, and the kind of Iranian ballistic missile barrage. We haven't seen this since the supposed ceasefire went into effect. But it also speaks to the complexity of what's going on here. Neither side has said that these talks are over. However, if we saw U.S. troops in any one of those attacks overnight, we would be having a much different conversation. Vlad?
All right, Charlie Daggett reporting from Tel Aviv. Thank you, Charlie. And you can see more of Robert Costa's conversation with Vice President Vance this weekend on CBS Sunday Morning.
Iran says it launched strikes on U.S. assets in the Middle East, including an American base in Jordan. This follows U.S. retaliation.
I mean, look, here's the situation. Here's the situation, okay? The United States, Israel, and Iran are in conflict. Israel doesn't want there to be a ceasefire. Israel doesn't want there to be any sort of negotiation. And Israel is going to do whatever it can to disrupt that process. America obviously is more in favor of a managed negotiation, a memorandum of understanding that could be implemented. But having said that, obviously America still is invested in following along with whatever Israel wants to do. Israel strikes Tyre or Israel strikes Beirut. Iran tries to enforce a red line by striking Israel directly. Then Donald Trump has to step in and tell Israel to back down. But of course, Israel says no. Israel violates the Trump red line, the established red line, and strikes Iran again. And this time, when Israel strikes Iran, they hit a petroleum facility, right? An oil refinery. Now, in retaliation, Iran has to go tit for tat. But aside from hitting, I guess, the ports of Haifa, there's not really much you can do to disrupt the Israeli energy production. So you can either try to strike at Israeli refineries, again, in the ports of Haifa, or in order to universalize the damage, you can go back and start striking the Gulf. But if you're Iran, you probably have bilateral commitments at this point. It seems to me like you have at least established some kind of talks with some of the Gulf nations, Qatar being one of them, and possibly even Saudi Arabia. Obviously, Oman is seen as a neutral party in this process. So that limits who you can actually strike. Yemen will open fire in central Israel around Tel Aviv and the Eilat port as well. Yemen will also conduct operations in the Red Sea, to disrupt transiting oil tankers and disrupt transiting shipments that are going to any of the Israeli ports. Iran has limited options, can strike Bahrain, can strike Kuwait, can strike the United Arab Emirates potentially. But ultimately, Iran takes out an Apache helicopter. Now America is involved. Iran strikes back at the Gulf nations. Now America is involved because America has obligations beyond Israel, at least on paper, obligations to the Gulf states. And therefore, now you have expanded the conflict. Israel consistently is forcing Iran's hand up the escalation ladder in an effort to showcase that it holds all the cards and showcase that, like, to egg Iran further, to egg Iran on to disrupt the ceasefire negotiation. On the Iranian side, there's two competing forces. On the one hand, Iran wants to obviously establish a ceasefire and get sanctions relief and get their demands across. On the other hand, in order to have any kind of leverage, in order to maintain the leverage that it currently has, it needs to do two things. One, maintain the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and disrupt operations in the Strait of Hormuz. And two, Iran also has to reestablish military deterrence. And in order to reestablish military deterrence, it has to behave in just as belligerent of a manner as Israel is. So right now, it's a constant tit-for-tat approach where Israel keeps escalating, and then Iran follows them up the escalation ladder by either striking Gulf refineries potentially, if their refineries process is disrupted, if their refineries are attacked like the way Israel has, or strike Israel directly. Obviously, there's like diminishing returns on striking Israel, from what I understand from their calculation, because Israel can withstand a lot more damage because they have a lot better defenses than the Gulf region. The Gulf region is left unprotected, so it's trying to, maximize its impact. Brett Erickson says, one of these analyst guys, he says, the return to war from President Trump is a clear admission that the blockade has failed disastrously. If time was on our side, we would have zero incentive to risk irreversible damage to Gulf energy infrastructure or the potential closing of Bab el-Mandeb. Zero. Which Sina Tusi, senior fellow at CI Policy, responds with, 100%. If Trump gets back to full-scale war, it will be an implicit acknowledgement that time was, indeed, not working in his favor for the blockade, which we know that wasn't the case anyway. U.S. has officially struck southern Iran as Iran vows response. Now we wait. Now we wait to see how hard Iran strikes, what Iran strikes. U.S. forces launched strikes against Iranian air defenses and radar installations in southern Iran Tuesday, with CENTCOM confirming the operation was carried out under direct orders from Trump. A U.S. official told Al Jazeera and Fox News that the strikes are ongoing. Trump told ABC News, we had to respond to the downing of the Apache helicopter. Explosions were reported in Keshem Island, in Sidik, in Menab, all coastal areas near the Strait of Hormuz, with Tasnim News reporters confirming 6 blasts fired from U.S. fighter jets. The Iranian state broadcaster IDIB confirmed explosions in Keshem and Sidik. Reports of strikes in central Iran remain unconfirmed. Separately, explosions were also heard in Adbil, Iraq, according to Tasnim. Iran vowed an immediate response. This was yesterday. Iran vowed an immediate response. An Iranian official told Al Jazeera the Apache was not flying over international waters, disputing the U.S. justification. Iran obviously said this was an Apache helicopter that was flying in our territorial waters or near our territorial waters off the Gulf of Oman. Tasnim then cited Iranian sources saying Tehran will give a definitive response to the U.S. aggression carried out under the pretext of the Apache helicopter crash. Arabic news outlets say highest alert levels have been issued at U.S. military bases in Kuwait, Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar. And then the wave of U.S. strikes on southern Iran ended for the time being. That was yesterday. CBS News said explicitly that the crew had to be rescued from hostile waters. Is that not an admission? Yes, it is an admission. And they even had to use unmanned drones, like sea drones, because they didn't want to risk any further loss of life. There were also drone strikes that took place from the IRGC side. And, this tit for tat has basically continued overnight. And it seems that it will continue today as well.
For the downing of an Apache helicopter. Iran also targeting the U.S. Fifth Fleet in Bahrain. Video geolocated by CNN does appear to show a flash coming from the area of a U.S. naval facility there. Both Bahrain and Kuwait say they intercepted a number of Iranian strikes. The president told Fox News he's getting close to ordering new strikes on Iranian bridges and power plants because negotiations have been so slow. And before that, on social media, he wrote of Iran, now they will have to pay the price. This follows a range of back and forth attacks between the U.S. and Iran overnight. Iran saying it launched strikes on U.S. targets in the Middle East, including a base in Jordan and the Fifth Fleet in Bahrain. Iran state media says U.S. strikes hit 2 reservoirs, cutting off drinking water to 20,000 people. CENTCOM has not yet responded to that. I want to get right to CNN's Elena Treen.
Remember, if their targets are civilian targets, that means that is an admission. Their targets are civilian targets. That is an admission that they are unable to defeat Iran militarily. They're unable to deteriorate Iran's striking capabilities. And that's precisely the reason why they're fucking hitting civilian targets instead. Sorry, I didn't realize the video was loud.
With the president talking in a much different way this morning than he has.
No, absolutely, John. This is quite a sharp turn from what we had heard from President Donald Trump not even 48 hours ago when he had said early Tuesday morning that he believed a deal could be 2 to 3 days away. Now, of course, posting online that he believes that Iran has taken too long to negotiate a deal, which he said would have been great for them. Now they will have to pay the price. Those are the words from President Trump this morning. I should note as well, he also spoke with Fox News and he indicated that he was considering wider military action toward Iran, arguing that peace talks have continued to falter. Again, very different from what we've heard from the president. I note that over this entire ceasefire, which started back in April, the president at least 37 times has been trying to indicate that a deal is close. Now, of course, I think some questions around is this really is the president being sincere when he says this? Did these strikes, the exchange of fire that we saw between Washington and Tehran yesterday, the U.S. saying they were defensive in nature in response to that downing of an Apache helicopter on Monday, has this really changed the president's mind about where talks are and whether or not a deal is actually possible? Or, of course, could this just be bluster from Trump trying to exert more leverage and pressure on the Iranians at a time when many officials, again, over the past couple of days have said they believed a framework deal was close? We have to wait and see. Now, I do want to share with you that when I spoke with a U.S. official yesterday about the U.S. retaliatory strikes in Iran, they had told me that really they were designed to be a warning shot. You heard from CENTCOM saying that the attacks would be proportional, and that they had came out and said yesterday that they were had finished. They had concluded after a series of those U.S. strikes and the exchange with Iran. A question, of course, though, is whether or not they have been contained enough that both the U.S. and the Iranians believe that diplomacy is still a viable option. Again, this is a very fragile time in the ceasefire, not just after these strikes, but after we saw over the weekend the fire exchange between Israel and Iran as well, really testing the willingness of all sides and their commitment to diplomacy. I will say we are hearing, though, some potential signs that diplomatic talks are still on the table. We know that there is a Qatari delegation right now in Tehran trying to bridge the gaps between these two sides. We'll have to see how this goes forward. But I think a big question, of course, is whether or not this is the president really trying to exert pressure at this time, or if he is sincere.
CNN's reply, can he?
Yeah, Barack Ravid reports the deal is close means the deal is far away. Barack Ravid reports Trump is mad at Netanyahu means they're about to do some crazy escalation in lockstep. Them's the rules. Them's the motherfucking rules. Finally, clean up on Isle Iran. Really? That's the big victory for the greatest, mightiest military on the planet is shutting off water access to 20,000 people. Do you feel proud of yourself? Do you feel like that was a significant accomplishment for the American military? You know, we got D-Day as a military accomplishment, and now what are we doing? Just fucking trying to kill people, trying to kill civilians thousands of miles away, and we can't even establish air superiority over Iranian territory. So we're just lobbing Tomahawk missiles from sometimes thousands of miles away. Ironically enough, you seem to in your nice glasses. Why not, Mr. Modest, Mr. Imperfection, demanding perfection? What? Dude, I have no idea what you're trying to say. That is actually too stupid for me to follow. My mistake for trying to communicate with you using the human language. No arguments there, huh? Just barely sentient hog reacting to shapes and colors. Cool. In any case, let's get back to it.
Is in Tehran with more on the unfolding situation there. We must note, as ever, CNN operates in Iran only with the permission of the government, but maintains full editorial control of our reporting. Here's Fred.
Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps say that they launched powerful retaliatory strikes at U.S. military bases.
Oh, no. The real American president is going to be at fucking Madison Square Garden tonight. We're so cooked.
In the Middle Eastern region. The Iranians say that they launched aerial attacks against bases in Jordan, Kuwait, as well as the headquarters of the Fifth Fleet in Bahrain, using drones but also powerful ballistic missiles. All this comes after the United States struck areas in the Persian Gulf. The Iranians are saying that that is a violation of their sovereignty, and they are also saying that it is a pretext that the U.S. is using. Now, all of this, of course, comes after a U.S. chopper was down near the Strait of Hormuz, the United States saying that it was hit by an Iranian drone and that it holds Iran responsible for that. In the overnight hours, there were explosions that could be heard, according to sources, in places like Bandar Abbas, but also on an island near the Persian Gulf. The U.S. saying that it struck radar installations and surface-to-air missile batteries. But the Iranians are saying that a water desalination plant was also struck, knocking out drinking water in parts of that region. Now,
tremendous accomplishment, by the way, by the mighty American military once again. So cool that Iran takes out a $50 million Apache helicopter, and then in retaliation, America just shuts off water access to 20,000 civilians. A straight-up war crime, by the way. It is very odd that the American media is I mean, this is like worse than our Iraq coverage, I think, where the American mainstream media would at the very least try to hide our war crimes. Nowadays we celebrate it, we flex it like it's a tremendous accomplishment. Very weird. Very, very weird that we're just we're just like, yeah, we're doing war crimes, nothing we can do about it. Yeah. For the price of $7,000 to $10,000 with a Shahed drone, they take out a $50 million helicopter. And then our retaliation is swift, and it's, of course, predictably retaliation towards civilians. A war crime, collective punishment, war crime. This is just how we do it nowadays.
Of course, all of this comes as the situation in the Persian Gulf and specifically in the Strait of Hormuz remains extremely volatile, with the U.S. and Iran trading blows in that area over the past couple of days. But also, as Iran and the United States are still trying to find a way to reach a memorandum of understanding that would end the hostilities between the two countries and then pave the way for broader peace negotiations. Fred Pleitgen, CNN, Tehran.
Joining me right now, CNN political and global affairs commentator Sabrina Singh and CNN global affairs analyst Kim Dozier. Guys, thanks for being here.
By the way, the global commentator Sabrina Singh is straight up a war criminal, like literally worked for the PR department, for the State Department during our during the Biden administration with our maximum fealty to Israel strategy that we deployed as Israel carried out its genocide against the Palestinians. Just so you guys understand, like, what the vibes are over at ZNN.
Let's start with this new warning from the president. What do you make of this of this social media posting now?
Well, what's interesting about the social media post is when CENTCOM launched the retaliatory strikes from the Apache that was shot down, they said it was proportional in nature. Now, this Truth Social post this morning could really change that. But I think the paradox here is that both sides do not want to go back to a full-scale war. So what you're seeing...
Oh, sorry. She worked for the Department of Defense, not state. On. I mean, she was doing PR for the DOD under the Biden administration. Whenever journalists would ask her about, are there any updates on the Department of Defense's contracts with the state of Israel, considering the litany of war crimes that Israel is committing? And her job was to be like, no, they're investigating themselves.
Is Iran strike again, and the U.S., they're trading barbs back and forth. How long can this go on and continue? We don't know, but clearly the president is signaling today that he might be willing to engage in more kinetic action.
Yeah, I think the question is he saying what we've done now shows they're good, that's the price they've paid, or there's something now about to come?
That's right, and we don't know. Yeah. We don't have more information.
Yeah. Kim, what do you think of this and what this could now mean?
I think it could be another rhetorical flare from Trump that is just a typical example of what has stymied the negotiations. According to the New York Times and other outlets, they are making progress behind closed doors on everything from nuclear enrichment to and suspending that for several years, to allowing intrusive inspections of Iranian sites. But the moment you have Trump either make a threat or reveal some of this progress in public and then often take it further. Yeah, we don't want them to agree to 10 years. We want them to agree to 20 years without enrichment. And saying that publicly, that always makes progress behind closed doors that much more difficult, because then the Iranians feel like they have to publicly make a riposte to that just out of pride.
And let's talk about the back and forth retaliation here, Kim. Iran now says 20,000 Iranians have lost access to drinking water after 2 reservoirs were struck. Iran blames this on the United States. CNN has reached out to Central...
What do you mean blames this on the United States? There's literally fucking impact sites that you just showed. The American government and Central Command has admitted to striking Iran. It's not... It's just what happened, you know. I don't understand what the purpose of saying that is. Like, is it up for debate? You just showed it.
Man for comment on the strikes, but Trump has threatened to hit water treatment plants in Iran. He started saying that back in April. That faced backlash then because civilian infrastructure sites like water plants are banned as targets by international law. If that's what the United States is now doing, and that's an if, CENTCOM has not responded.
Oh, that's an if. First of all, the American government has openly admitted to engaging in war crimes already by striking civilian infrastructure such as bridges. Donald Trump, on top of that, has not only flexed that they are hitting civilian sites, but they will continue to blow up all civilian sites. If there was any decency in this world, if there was any real maintenance of the international standards that we, the United States of America, were the architectures of, there is enough evidence here to suggest intent and to show action that is genocidal, or at the very least war crimes, by the International Criminal Court against Donald Trump. Okay? Of course, there is no world where The Hague prosecutes the American president. We literally have a law that dictates that The Hague can't even prosecute American allies, the Invasion of the Hague Act, since we kickstarted the global war on terror. But there is no if in this situation. Donald Trump has already shown genocidal intent. He has admitted over and over again that he is invested in doing war crimes. He has admitted and taken responsibility over war crimes that America has conducted. The entire Operation Epic Fury started with an act of perfidy in a negotiations process with Iran once again. So the notion that this is up for debate is completely ridiculous. It's not up for debate at all. Donald Trump is openly saying, you know, he wants to keep doing war crimes against Iran.
Yet. What do you make of that?
Well, under U.S.
Why wouldn't you say Russia is conducting a genocide? Great question. I've talked about this already, but if you heard what I said there's genocidal intent established by Donald Trump saying I'm going to genocide Iran. Okay, but even if there isn't a genocide that you could prove, you can absolutely prove without a shred of doubt that Donald Trump has engaged in war crimes. I've also admitted and openly stated over and over again that Russia has engaged in war crimes as well. Words mean things. You're entertaining a gray name looking debate. I know.
military law, you can strike.
But Russia attacks civilian architecture, infrastructure. How come Chad doesn't think so? There's not a single chatter in this community that doesn't think that Russia hasn't struck civilian infrastructure. You just made that up. And you actually didn't even make that up for the chat. You initially suggested that I was not acknowledging it. And then when I told you that I have acknowledged it time and time again, you instantly locked in on chat to move the goalpost to try to fucking claim that there's at least someone in the chat that doesn't fucking agree with me. Okay? Perhaps it's not because there's a misunderstanding here. Okay, I have to get your attention somehow. Well, you know, take a week off and then really reconsider your priorities. The fuck do you mean you have to get my attention somehow? You don't have to do that at all.
This kind of a target, according to proportionality, according to, did this particular water reservoir or these two reservoirs mostly feed into military facilities? In that case, you could make a legal argument that they were okay to strike. But what we're hearing from Iran is these fed large civilian districts, and you have many Iranian military sites next to or co-located with civilian areas. So it is hard for me to understand.
Oh, is it? It's hard for you to understand when Donald Trump says we're going to fucking destroy all cultural landmarks. We're going to destroy the entirety of like Iranian existence. We're going to wipe Iran and its culture off the map. It's difficult to understand. Yeah, it's only difficult to understand because you're refusing to understand what's taking place here. That's the only reason why it's difficult, I guess. Not actually difficult to understand at all. Yeah. Derek Davison says, they were aggressively drinking water at us. We had no choice but to retaliate. Yeah, self-defense strikes against a water reservoir. How ridiculous.
Why this was okay. Why not hit one of their drone factories or part of the military arm that's allowing them to continue with the war fighting? Because it takes decades to repair a water reservoir in a country that has struggled with drought. This is a real blow.
What questions does this raise for you in this moment?
I agree with Kim. I mean, right now, there could be a legal argument that CENTCOM could make, and that if this was, a water facility that was, assisting military facilities or military infrastructure in some way, but there's a lot of questions here, and I think CENTCOM's statement yesterday said that they struck.
What do you mean a water facility that's assisting military facilities? There is no fucking argument, dude. They're literally, oh my God, everything is Israel. We are Israel. Israel and the United States of America are one nation under God, okay? Indivisible. What are you saying right now? Oh, the military was drinking the water? These were water reservoirs of terror? They're literally doing the Hamas line. Sorry, it was a Hamas-spital. This time it's a Hamas water reservoir. What the fuck? Is the IRGC water. That's what it is.
Air defense targets and radars and ground.
Russia is potentially committing acts of genocide under the Genocide Convention, specifically Article 2. Yes, the forcible transfer of children from the occupied population. I know. It doesn't necessarily fit within the popular definition, but legally it's probably the strongest case. Not that it'll ever get tried by the ICJ, but good to know. No, I know. I am familiar. Broadly speaking, their goals over their complete domination of Ukraine, expansion of their territory over the Ukrainian borders, and to bring the Ukrainian population into their population numbers. Are they going to be successful? No, of course not. But that's the broader goal here, as opposed to the Israeli goals are never to incorporate the Palestinian population into their overall population. It's land acquisition, it's territorial expansion with ethnic cleansing involved. That's the major difference. In any case, like I said, just because you can potentially establish genocidal intent doesn't mean that it is a genocide, which is why I said with the United States of America, there is genocidal intent, but it would never, I don't know if it would ever, even in a just world, it would hold up to the standard of a genocide. Whereas with Korea, we can clearly define it as one, given the bombing campaigns and the targets that they struck in Korea. Okay. However, no one is questioning whether or not Russia has committed war crimes, and no one is questioning whether or not America is currently in the process of committing war crimes, except for CNN. The point I was making is that CNN is actually trying to create doubt where no such doubt exists, because we know that it happened. We watched it happen. We saw the impact sites. And not only that, but also Donald Trump has openly stated that he is invested in doing war crimes in Iran.
Control centers. So there is a bit of discrepancy. I mean, it would be nice if the Pentagon held briefings. So
can I ask how Russia is relevant to this current discourse at all? It's not. It's not even in any way, shape, or form, unless you want to say, when Russia does it, we call it out and we openly acknowledge it. When America does it, the whole world stands by and acts as though there's some doubt. Okay? That's it. The only reason why some people come in here to say, oh, what about Russia? When, Russia's actions are comparable to the United States of America, 100%. There's no doubt there. I, openly mention that all the fucking time. But a lot of shit lips come in here to bring Russia up to throw a fucking deflection grenade. It's like a smoke bomb. To be like, oh, well, what about Russia? It's like, yeah, what about it? Yes, they're doing war crimes. You and I agree on that. You don't agree on America conducting war crimes. That's the reason why you want to deflect away from America to point the finger at Russia right now.
we could ask some of these questions and get more clarification on why this desalination plant was hit. But this is going to have a big hit to the 20,000 people who depend on this water. And that is a catastrophic effect of this war. And of course, as we know, also here, the rising gas prices.
You posted this morning about Iran, and you said that they've taken too long to get to a deal. I want to make sure I quote you correctly.
Hey, Hasan, why is Korea genocide? The United States supported Koreans, maybe war crimes, but not genocide? No, the Korean War was genocidal. What we did in Korea is literally what Israel is doing in Gaza right now. If you consider what Israel is doing in Gaza to be a genocide, then you have to recognize that what we did in Korea is also the exact same. As a matter of fact, that is the established precedent for the Dahiya doctrine before Israel ever used it in Dahiya, in suburbs of Beirut, in southern Lebanon. That's where that military technique comes from, collateralizing the entire civilian population, destroying civilian infrastructure deliberately. That is the Dahiya doctrine. That is what America is doing right now in Iran. That is literally what is understandably considered genocidal acts. Not only that, but they also wanted to use a nuke in Korea
You said that now they will have to pay the price.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that specifically?
Well, we're going to be attacking them very hard.
You're resuming bombing?
Yeah, well, we are. Based on the helicopter, I guess we have the right to do that. You know, they shot down a very, very incredible, actually an incredible machine. And at first they said they didn't do it. Then they admitted they did. It was sort of easy because we have the bomb. We actually have the bomb. Got very lucky that bomb.
We're going to hit them hard again today. When I saw the first post, I thought, is he counting Iranian ships that ran the strait? And then I saw that he said, we're taking their oil out of Iran, which just confirms, yes, he is. Yeah, so this was what he said earlier. Last month, I directed our great U.S. military to execute a secret mission to support oil tankers and other commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Today, I am pleased to announce that this effort has resulted in more than 100 million barrels of oil making its way through the strait and into the open market. More than 200 commercial ships have safely traveled through the strait. This wildly successful effort is because the United States of America controls the Strait of Hormuz, not Iran. Their military is defeated and their economy is lost. It's over for Iran. Thank you for attention to this matter. It turns out he was literally talking about the Iranian oil tankers that were allowed to fucking cross through the Strait of Hormuz, and he's taking credit for it. Breaking, U.S. Energy Secretary Wright says he is not aware of the oil that President Trump claimed the U.S. is taking out of Iran. President Trump said the oil that the U.S. has been taking out of Iran is a big reason as to why the oil prices have fallen towards $85 a barrel. So they're obviously allowing Iranian oil tankers to pass through to go to the Asian markets. And then he's saying, like, we're letting that happen. And we've actually stolen that oil. We've taken that oil ourselves. And Gregory Brew, senior analyst for Iran Oil at Eurasia Group, says for what it's worth, 100 million BBLs, Brazilian butt lifts, is 50 to 100 ships, depending on the size, which is equal to about a few days of pre-war flows. Yeah. U.S. retail gasoline average prices have fallen nearly 10% since late May, down 4.15 per gallon. The lowest since April. It was 4.56 per gallon in May 26. There's a big reason why Trump thinks he can continue dragging out the current low-boil attritional phase of the war without having to choose between a personally catastrophic peace deal, i.e. capitulation, or a globally catastrophic resumption of the war. There was another post that he actually delivered. The fake news media refused to report how effective the U.S. naval blockade is, the most successful blockade in the history of naval warfare. Nothing gets through unless we want it to. It is a steel wall. Iran is doing zero business, not paying their military or any of their bills, and quickly becoming a failed nation. Lots of oil is getting out. Praise be to Allah, President Donald J. Trump. But is our reserves increasing? Fuck no. Fuck no. We're at a critical stage. We are a couple weeks out from hitting the bottom of the barrel. Look, literally. Most countries are like a month out. Most countries are a month out from reaching critical levels in their strategic reserves. Okay? When I saw first post, I thought, is he counting Iranian ships that ran the strait? And then I saw, yeah, so the oil executives realize it, but Trump is ignoring the crisis? Yes. Not where I'm at? What do you mean? Yeah, he's doing the praise be to Allah shit again, which I assume implies that he's panicking. Whenever he deploys praise be to Allah, know that he's like threatening. It's almost like a code word where he's saying like, we're going to destroy. Like, he has openly mentioned that he does that to like freak out the Iranians. It means that like we are reaching a boiling point and he's threatening the maximum level of damage against Iran. That's usually how he does it. And he's like also mocking them, I guess. That's all this is. Robert A. Pape. President Trump just said 200 ships have secretly passed Hormuz since the war began. That's compared to over 10,000 in the normal 100 days since the war. 200 is 2% of the norm. World heading to historic energy crisis. So even his flex on how many ships have been able to pass through, many of which are Iranian ships, is literally a fraction of the necessary oil tankers transiting through the strait unimpeded, which is slowly but surely chipping away, eroding the strategic reserves in the Asian markets and even in the United States of America. Iranian and U.S. officials held parallel talks with Qatari mediators in Doha over the past 2 days, according to a regional source. The Qataris tried to arrange a trilateral meeting to directly negotiate the remaining gaps, but the Iranians refused, says Barak Unit 8200 Ravid. Let's take a look at what Trump is saying now.
Didn't explode. That bomb was lodged in the helicopter. It didn't explode. It was on fire, but it didn't explode. Those two guys, they knew how to fly, but they got very lucky. And then we had the unmanned boat going very, very fast at speeds that you wouldn't want to go. That's why it's unmanned, I guess, because nobody can go in that. But they rescued. So both people are, fortunately, the pilots are okay. No, look, I've been working with Iran for a number of months, and they should sign their deal. It's a good deal. It doesn't give them the right to have a nuclear weapon. In fact, it totally...
Well, why is the price falling? What are the market's logic here? I don't know. I think the market is illogical. I don't think there's a real... I think there's a bubble, and I don't think there's a real supply-demand curve that the market is operating off of, especially when you look at different markets where the price of fucking crude is up. It's a global commodity with inelastic demand. It's a global market for that reason. So America's not sheltered from the impact. So I assume they're just dumping their reserves right now. That's what it is.
It prohibits them from ever having a nuclear weapon. And it was just tap, tap, tap. I don't know what they're doing. So they then shot at our helicopter. Very expensive helicopter, by the way, but much more importantly, the two men, fortunately, they're okay. But an amazing rescue. If you ever get a clip, you won't believe the rescue, how cool it was. The equipment we have. Look, we have the strongest military in the world. And I gave them a break at the request of Pakistan. The Field Marshal and the Prime Minister of Pakistan are great. We stopped them from going to war with India. You would have had a nuclear war if it wasn't for me. But they became friendly to me, very friendly, and they're close to Iran, and they worked, and they still are working on trying them to do what's right. But we want a deal that's meaningful. We want a deal that works. We don't want to just have a Barack Hussein Obama deal, JCPOA, the worst deal. That was a path to a nuclear. It's the exact opposite. You know, I like on television, they say, oh, they should have kept that deal. First of all, it was over. It was a short-term deal. But that deal was a path to a nuclear.
We see the fit, bro. Thank you. I wanted to show it off again. I'm very proud of this one. Stupid question, but can Iran be Stalin to get the nuke in the meantime? No. That tie does not match, homie. I'm sorry. Shut up.
Weapon. This is a path against a nuclear. You can't have a nuclear weapon. His was a path to a nuclear weapon. They were developing during his administration nuclear weapon. If they had a nuclear weapon, there'd be no Israel, there'd be no Middle East, and they would have absolutely shot at us. So we'll see what happens. But we hit them hard yesterday, and we're going to hit them again hard today, in case you miss it, in case you don't turn on your television set. And we'll see what happens with the deal. We were really close to a deal, but they keep tapping us along. They keep playing us for suckers because you know what? They dealt with some very stupid presidents. I have to say that. I'm embarrassed to say it. Some very stupid people were sitting here. Yeah.
Thank you, President. I have two questions. First of all, Turkish President Erdogan keeps threatening Israel. Do you think there's a chance of a conflict between Israel and Turkey, and will you sell F-35 to?
Well, as you know, he's a very good friend of mine. And we've worked very well together. I like him a lot. I'm not supposed to say that because the press will say, oh, he likes Erdogan. No, he's a hell of a leader and a strong person, very strong person. I haven't heard that at all. If I did, I'd call him, and I think I'd make sure that things were fine. I don't think that will happen with Turkey, not as long as I'm president, because he respects me and I respect him. But beyond that, we have a good friendship. So, you know.
And my second question, that's my second question. Besides peace in the Middle East, what do you wish yourself for?
Brookings Institute guy explaining why oil isn't spiking. A big reason oil didn't go to 200 and why it won't is that the U.S. crude exports have boomed. Chart shows massive rise in crude exports in April, which is not explained by SPR release. U.S. supply is a genuine force holding down global oil prices. This is what I said as well, partially backed by, I suspect, the new natural reserves that opened up from Venezuela. So America is basically crippling the global reliance on the Gulf. I didn't think that we would have we would be able to keep up with the necessary demand, but this is part of it, I suspect. Since oil production didn't increase much since April, I think the extra exports are from business inventory, which is not SPR. I think it's unreasonable to expect production to ramp up at short notice when a shock like Iran hits. Obviously, the first thing that happens is that inventories are drawn down, and that's fine. This is global arbitrage at work, and I expect May U.S. exports to be even bigger. I don't know. I don't know where it's... I don't know how they are capable of ramping up, but with 20% of the entire globe's oil demands. Anyway, the anti-Semitic tyrant Erdogan, who perpetrates genocide against the Kurds, supports the terrorist organization Hamas, oppresses his own people, and imprisons political rivals, is the last one who can preach morals of the State of Israel. The State of Israel and the IDF, the most moral army in the world. Oh my God, it's so funny when he says that. This is why Netanyahu tweeted about Erdogan. And he said he's going to forcefully respond. Turkish President Erdogan says 85 years ago, the silence and inaction in the face of Hitler led to the deaths of 80 million people worldwide. All of humanity paid the price for the madness of a deranged tyrant. Today, the same mistake is being repeated. The genocidal actions of Gaza butcher Netanyahu and his cabinet are being watched with the same silence and lack of response that once greeted Hitler. No one should forget, when a fire grows, it does not only burn the region where it stands, where it starts, it sparks spread across the world. Just as the entire world is paying the price today for the unresolved situation in the Strait of Hormuz, if Israel's lawlessness is not brought to the end, all of humanity, along with the region, will bear the consequences, which he's right. You know, I mean, he's literally right. So, of course, that's the exact type of correct statement that really pisses off Benjamin Netanyahu. Anyway, where was I? Oh, here is. I mean, I don't even know if there's any utility in listening to Trey Inks. He's like even less relevant than Barack Ravid's reporting. I'm gonna be honest, but he has direct access to Donald Trump, and he, I guess, will. You know, if you want to hear like the maximalist propaganda from the American side, you listen to Trey Inks.
Yeah, guys, good morning. I just got off the phone with President Trump, and he gave Fox News some brand new details on what happened with that Apache helicopter that went down earlier this week, and provided his thinking on where things stand with the negotiation. I want to start with a story the president told me, new details about the downing of this U.S. Army Apache helicopter. President Trump tells Fox News that the Iranian drone lodged in between the two pilots in this helicopter. They were flying very low. And at that point, the drone didn't explode as it had intended to. And so these pilots were trying to take down the helicopter with the drone lodged into this gunship without it exploding. And at any moment, it could have exploded, the president told me. And he said it was on fire. There was a lot of heat inside the cockpit of this helicopter. And ultimately, these two pilots were able to take it down into the sea, where ultimately they were rescued for the first time in U.S. military history by an unmanned sea drone. Now, President Trump also talked about the U.S. strikes last night against Iranian radar systems and air defense sites. He said the Iranians had tried to rebuild during the ceasefire their defensive capabilities, but they were unable to stop these U.S. strikes overnight, and they were hammered by U.S. fighter jets. Now, interestingly, President Trump told me that he is getting close to ordering new strikes against Iranian power plants and bridges, because he says the Iranians are tapping the United States along when it comes to the negotiating process. He says the bully of the Middle East is dead. And he told me I may keep going when I asked him about a possible response to the Iranian missile fire that targeted U.S. forces in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Jordan overnight. The president said they had a chance to sign a deal and survive, indicating again that he may order new strikes against the Iranian regime in response to their dragging their feet at the negotiating table. Again, though, the latest information that we got from President Trump about that helicopter that went down earlier this week, really a remarkable story. The president called it a miracle. This drone hits the Apache helicopter, lodges between the two pilots. It's on fire, and there's a massive amount of heat coming out of the drone, but it doesn't explode. And these pilots very quickly, within seconds, because they're flying very low, take the helicopter down into the sea. And then ultimately, about 2 hours later, according to U.S. Central Command, they are rescued for the first time in U.S. military history by an unmanned sea drone. Again, the president ordering those strikes overnight and those air defense sites that the Iranians have tried to rebuild during the ceasefire. They weren't supposed to do that, but the president said just a few percentages of that defensive capability they were able to rebuild. And President Trump says they took out about 55% of what they were even able to rebuild. But just a remarkable story about these U.S. pilots from the Army that were able to survive this ordeal against an Iranian drone lodged into their helicopter.
Zoran just tweeted this out. Be careful. New York City extreme heat and thunderstorms are rolling in tonight. We may see scattered thunderstorms with heavy rain and high winds that could down trees and power lines. Exercise caution while traveling and stay inside during storms. Thursday and Friday, the heat index may hit 100 degrees. Extreme heat is deadly, so please seek out air conditioning and help your neighbors to do the same. Thanks, Chatter. Thank you, Chatter. I mean, I feel like this story is probably a bit exaggerated, unless it was a dud, I guess, like a drone with loitering surface air missile system on it that fired at the helicopter, but it was a dud. It didn't explode. I don't know. It just seems kind of wild. Yes, there's a MSG versus Zohran Mamdani drama as well. New York's severe heat is no joke. Skip the suit jacket at Min tomorrow. Brother, I know. What the fuck are you guys talking about? I lived here. Like, I lived in New Jersey for years. I am very familiar with all 4 seasons in this area. Hello? I think motherfuckers forget it's especially dangerous for old people, so please be careful. HasanAbi, hustle. Okay, guys, calm down.
And again, President Trump ordering those powerful strikes overnight to send a message to the Iranian regime that he is not done. And if they are unwilling to make a deal, the president tells Fox News he may keep going.
One of the things that would stop him, that stopped him from going back, multiple things. There's people in his administration who is just concerned about the election. I can understand that, and just don't feel we should have been doing it anyway. The other thing was the Gulf states. The Gulf states were getting worried because they were being targeted, and they're worried about their oil and gas, which fuels their economy, pun intended. And at this point, it seems, Trey, by what you say and what the president just said, and with the analysis you've offered, at this point, it seems the president says, yeah, I hear you, but it looks like it's in our best interest for me to go ahead anyway. It seems like we're getting close to that because he's able to monitor the interaction that the Iranians are having with each other, and that brings him to that conclusion.
Yes, absolutely. And the president talked about the oil prices around $80 to $90 a barrel. And remember, some analysts said they were going to be at $300. And because of the way that the president has conducted these negotiations, it has reinstalled, I think, faith in these Gulf countries who are responsible for so much of the world's crude oil production and LNG production. Remember, the Qataris account just by themselves for about 20% of the world's LNG production. I've talked with regional sources, and they say President Trump has strategic patience. And he's given the Iranians an olive branch time and time again, offering them a chance to make a good faith deal at the table to open the Strait of Hormuz, abandon their nuclear ambitions, get rid of that nuclear dust, and ultimately de-escalate the situation across the region. And the president at the same time has been calling on Gulf allies of the United States, like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar, and others, to join the Abraham Accords. Because the larger vision here for President Trump is to develop an accords that will create peace across the Middle East and have these countries normalize ties with Israel. Because we saw the Israelis striking Iran just a number of days ago in response to the ballistic missile fire toward this country. But what I gathered from my conversation with the president is that he is working to exhaust all diplomatic options. Again,
I can't believe we thought Trey was solid. No, Trey has not been solid nor reliable since he got a promotion. He has not been solid, unfortunately.
Given the Iranians a chance at diplomacy, and they haven't taken it. The president said himself, all they had to do was sign, and they could survive. And they've chosen not to do so far. And that is why President Trump told me he is getting close to targeting Iran's power plants and bridges if they are unwilling to sign a deal. He told me he may keep going as it relates to the U.S. strikes overnight. And he said Iran is tapping the United States along, and he's not going to stand for it.
Trey, real quickly, because you've had the opportunity to talk with the president today, but before that as well. And you know he has a distinction. He calls some of these strikes little love taps. Did you the president was doing the love taps to get them back to the table? Or are we past the love taps and the president is getting ready to restart the full operation?
It's a great question, and ultimately that's going to be up to President Trump. But at this point, again, he has given the Iranians a chance time and time again for more than 2 months to reach a negotiated settlement. And as the president has told me, and regional intelligence sources have told Fox News in recent weeks, this is a pretty simple deal. Iran has to sign on the dotted line, and they have 2 options here. They can either open the Strait of Hormuz and make these commitments as it relates to their nuclear program and export or destroy all of that enriched material, or ultimately this is going to resume into an intense military operation against the Iranian regime. Remember, last night, the majority of the U.S. strikes were focused on the southwestern part of Iran. President Trump ordered these strikes against Iranian radar systems and against air defense systems that the Iranians...
Yeah, these are little love taps. If we call war crimes love taps, then it's more palatable. B-52 making his way over the Persian Gulf. All right, well, considering that it's highly unlikely that they're going to base a strategic bomber in the Gulf, this is either a message/drill or another round is coming. Don't they take their transponders off when they go on a bombing run? It's a Poseidon. It's just mislabeled. They are P-8s, idiots. They're looking for Iran subs that will cut undersea cables and destroy the Gulf banking system.
Tried to rebuild during the ceasefire. And there are a variety of strike options on the table for President Trump. And so he maintains this leverage. He holds the cards here. And the Iranians thought for a very long time, according to intelligence sources in the region, that they could wait out President Trump. They thought that he cared about the World Cup or the midterms. Ultimately, he showed last night he cares about victory on the battlefield and about either reaching an agreement with the Iranian regime that ensures they have never have a nuclear weapon, or ultimately doing this through force. And so again, President Trump has a variety of options on the table here. But I think when we talk about this enriched material, it's a very important point here because we've been briefed by U.S. officials, and I want to just take our viewers very quickly through this process because it's important to understand how the Iranians are getting closer to weapons-grade material. When uranium ore is mined from the ground, ultimately it goes through a chemical process and it's turned into yellow cake. And then through another chemical process, that yellow cake is turned into a hexafluoride gas. And they spin that gas very rapidly in these advanced centrifuges that the Iranians had a lot of in their nuclear facilities that were targeted during Operation Midnight Hammer last summer. But as they repeat this process over and over again, the lighter particles go to the outside of these centrifuges and the heavier ones stay at the inside. And they repeat the process over and over again, and they increase the purity of this enriched material to around 60% purity. One step further, you get to 90% purity, and that is weapons-grade material for a nuclear bomb.
Dude, I don't want to I can't deal with this dude. This guy sounds like he woke up with Trump this morning. Yeah, they were in bed together. They were having sex. Yeah, any minute now, dude. Any minute now, they're about to enrich it. Every day. Every day, they're closer and closer to enrichment, dude. Totally. God, it's just not even very good. As far as propaganda goes, I don't think this is good propaganda. It's actually remarkably bad propaganda.
Well, I'll go a step bigger. Peace for the world, okay? Peace for the world. Middle East, yes. Peace for the whole world, yeah.
Iranian missiles streaking through the sky last.
One of the craziest aspects of this has been that, I guess, like, given the limitations of the Iranian retaliation so far, Trump gets to maintain this posture that there is a ceasefire that's still ongoing. I find that very odd as well, right? Because Iran is not retaliating Iran is not retaliating with sufficient countermeasures and is not going back to, like, I guess, the most extensive bombing campaign that they were engaging in the beginning of the Epstein Fury operation, that Trump can just turn around and consistently maintain the idea that, like, a ceasefire is still happening, it's still ongoing, and people shouldn't even worry about it. All this has done is basically destroy the mutual understanding of words that we have. A ceasefire no longer means the cessation of hostilities in any way, shape, or form. Both parties still attack one another. America attacks Iran. Iran attacks Israel. Iran attacks the proxies. I don't even fucking know anymore. It just has no meaning.
Again, as the US and Iran traded blows following the downing of an American helicopter near the Strait of Hormuz. Iran says it targeted US bases in the Middle East. American officials say they struck Iranian air defense and radar systems. A flare-up both dramatic and contained amidst this fragile ceasefire. Neither Iran's regime nor President Trump want a resumption of all-out war. Neither side wants to leave any aggression unanswered.
We must come out of this state of neither war nor.
At what point will you become a doomer about this? I mean, I don't really know. Am I not sufficiently doomer about this? I have been sufficiently doomer about this. I feel like it's completely fucked. It's very clear that that America's refusal to abide by the very reasonable demands that Iran is making is extending this fucking conflict for no real reason. And in the process, America is now going back to hitting civilian targets. It sucks.
Peace. War is certainly not in the country's interest. But that does not mean if they seek to violate our dignity or encroach our land and territory, we will surrender or back down.
I told the guys today.
Meanwhile, President Trump talked both of more strikes and the possibility of peace.
But we hit them hard yesterday, and we're going to hit them again hard today, in case you miss it, in case you don't turn on your television set. And we'll see what happens with the deal. We were really close to a deal, but they keep tapping us along. They keep playing us for suckers.
In Lebanon, there's no sign of a supposed ceasefire, with heavy Israeli attacks on the south of the country continuing, and Hezbollah firing at Israeli troops. The conflict here further complicating the already stalled talks between the US and Iran. And fresh Israeli evacuation orders are pushing yet more Lebanese out of their homes. 1 million have been displaced, many in shelters, others just in tents on the street here in Beirut.
10 years old?
Yeah. Jude and her brothers come from Qiyam, a border village that's now largely been destroyed.
At night when the strikes were happening, it was terrifying. We would all sleep together in the living room. We could hear the drones above our head.
After 3 months living in a tent, her father, Rabia, is exhausted and furious.
I feel like going in front of an Israeli tank that's sitting on my land and telling them, kill me, do whatever you want. And I place my fate and my children's fate on those in charge, on those who have left my children like this, while their own children are living in the most luxurious hotels. We've had enough. We've reached our absolute limit.
But for now, there's no end to the tears, no end to the grief. Close to 4,000 people have been killed in Israel's attacks on Lebanon, including more than 130
You think a couple of weeks ago when the negotiators supposedly had an agreement that Trump was the one to block the deal? I don't think it's Trump doing that. I think judging by the way Trump moves, the way Trump operates, I feel like yeah, sure, he has his own personal reasons for not wanting to put pen to paper on a ceasefire negotiation because it's a humiliation for him. But he has in the past figured out a way to make this kind of thing work. So I don't think it's just his ego that's stopping this ceasefire from coming to fruition. I think it's Israel. I voted Trump 3X. The dude is a con man, completely betrayed, sold us out to Israel. The faster you realize it, the faster we can all move on from MAGA so it doesn't happen. So it doesn't happen again. Okay. Maybe it's bot accounts. Maybe it's real. Who knows? Hopefully it's real.
medics and healthcare workers.
The young man they're burying today was a volunteer with a paramedic organization established by a political party that is allied to Hezbollah. But international law is clear. Deliberately targeting healthcare workers is a war crime, irrespective of their affiliation.
There was a strike on the paramedic center. Ali was trying to take our injured colleagues away in an ambulance when he was targeted too.
There's been so much killing here. How does this conflict end?
The land requires sacrifice, and the land must be irrigated with blood. It is never satiated.
This is a temporary resting place, a cemetery just outside Beirut, for families unable to bury loved ones in their own homes in the south because of ongoing Israeli attacks. Hezbollah flags adorn many of the other graves here. How much more country and across this region?
I have a message for you, the people of Lebanon.
Oh my God. Well, it's in English, so it's for the Americans to hear.
Israel is not at war with you. We're at war with Hezbollah, that has taken your country hostage, that does Iran's bidding.
Bro, how many times have we heard this exact same message? I have a message for you, the people of Gaza. We have a message for you. Our war is not with you, but it's actually with Hamas. I have a message for you, the people of Iran, the good people of Iran. Our war is not with you. It's actually with the Islamic Republic. It's literally the same exact message. It's not even for anybody at this point. Who is this for? Who hears this and goes, yeah, no, I believe it. I totally believe it. Yeah, he just wants to he wants to free Lebanon from Hezbollah. He wants to free Gaza from Hamas. He wants to free Iran from the IRGC. Even the biggest dick riders of all time, okay, Persians. I am not Iranian. I am Persian. President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. All of the people that used to talk like that, even those people gave up on the notion that President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, thank you, are actually fucking invested in any way, shape, or form in liberation for the Iranian people. The only thing that they're liberating people from is their fucking bodies, okay, is their lives. Oh my God.
That uses your territory to launch terrorist attacks against Israel. Do you remember what Lebanon was like before Iran and Hezbollah turned it into a nightmare? Remember the cafes? Remember the culture? Remember the calm? All that's gone because Hezbollah and...
Yeah, the only person that still fucking hears this message and goes, I believe it, is like Patrick Bet-David, I think. Like, this message is for, I guess, American Zionists, or Zionists in the English-speaking world that are already pro-Israel, and this gives them a little bit more comfort, maybe. It allows them to be just as delusional as they always are. It allows them to maintain their idiotic posture. It's just so fucked up.
Iran want to drag us into war over and over and over again. You deserve better. Your children deserve better. You know by now that Israel will do whatever it takes to protect our families, our communities. Hezbollah is weaker than ever. Israel is stronger than ever. We've taken out nearly 10,000 Hezbollah terrorists so far. We're systematically clearing out South Lebanon of these fanatics. No matter where they are, we'll find them. You also know we yearn for peace with you, with Lebanon. A peace where our two peoples can invest together, build together, thrive together. The only impediment, the only obstacle to this beautiful vision is Hezbollah. They want war, not peace. They want death, not life. They will sacrifice as many of you as possible to achieve their sick aims. Don't let your future be dictated by medieval theocrats hell-bent on destroying our common civilization. Israel wants peace with you. Seize your future. Join Israel. Build safety and prosperity for all of our children. And once Hezbollah is dismantled, the possibilities are endless, and they are.
Dude, this, yeah. Right before Benjamin Netanyahu says this, I mean, right after Benjamin Netanyahu says this, he conducted the genocide of Gaza. So, judging by statements like that, it's not looking too good for Lebanon either. And of course, there's no force that will restrain Israel. There's no force on the planet that will restrain Israel. It's incredibly annoying. Senior Iranian MP Ebrahim Azizi says, we are not afraid of fighting losers. The number of American casualties is already far higher than Trump confirms, and it will rise. This time, the war won't be limited to the region. We'll see what happens. I don't know if that means anything. Unless the U.S. and Israeli military merge, they cannot take on Hezbollah. It doesn't matter. Their goal is not to take on Hezbollah. Their goal is to just keep murdering Lebanese people and keep clearing out villages as the world looks on and says absolutely nothing. A real blight. Real blight on the planet. Okay. Moving on to Democratic Party primaries, or primaries that took place in Maine, South Carolina, numerous other places. Obviously, Graham Platner won the primaries last night, as expected. Not a lot of super interesting data came out of this, in my opinion. Everything went according to the expectations. I think he got like the same margin as previous Democrats had, but with a much higher number of participants this time around. So there is definitely a lot of people who are involved, a lot of people who are invested, a lot of people who are going out to vote, even though it's a primary. So that's good.
Primary voters hit the polls to pick their candidates for the fall. In the state of Maine, a Senate showdown is set between Democrat Graham Platner and Republican Senator Susan Collins. Platner is a first-time candidate facing serious questions about his past. Caitlin Huey-Burns is in Brewer, Maine. Caitlin, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Vlad. And after prevailing in that primary last night, Graham Platner nodded to some of those controversies. He's made mistakes in life, but he vowed to make them proud in a race that is going to help determine control of the U.S. Senate.
We will win back this Senate seat.
Graham Platner won the Maine Democratic primary for the U.S. Senate Tuesday, despite a number of headline-grabbing controversies.
It's so funny that liberals who maintain the vote blue no matter who posture, like the centrist liberals who are unbelievably pro-Israel and Israel first, clearly, that have taken Graham Platner's statements against Israel very seriously, contrary to what the ultras think, are deciding to say, like, oh, you guys don't understand. We're just giving you a sincere warning that, like, you only know how to beat us, centrist Democrats. You don't know how to beat right-wing Republicans. Right-wing Republicans are far more vicious, far more ruthless, and have a lot more money to dump in these sorts of races. And while that is true, and the Republicans have already entertained a $50 million war chest that they're going to be dumping in the direction of Susan Collins here, it's very clear to me that liberals recognize something that I've been saying since day one. Like Graham Platner, don't like Graham Platner, it doesn't matter. Graham Platner's platform shows that you can actually win with left populism in a purple state, in a red seat. You can win over a red seat. This betrays the fundamental argument that liberals have advanced over and over again against left flank candidates. So that's why I don't spend a good deal of time talking about Graham Platner's background or his shortcomings or what went wrong here or anything like that. Okay? They recognize it because, I'm sorry to say this, they're a lot smarter when it comes to elections than the average online lefty is. Okay, this is their field. This is where they are dominant, and they know exactly how to undermine their opposition. And when I say their opposition, I don't mean the Republicans. Their opposition in this race is the left. For the centrists in the Democratic Party, they would much rather maintain, for some of them, they would much rather maintain a Republican majority in the Senate than to give way to the argument that you can actually win with left populism in a purple state. You can actually win with left populism in a red seat. Okay? That's it. And I've been saying this since day one, since the first Graham Platner controversies came out. Right? Since the first Graham Platner controversy came out, what did I say? I said, look, I have my suspicions, I have my skepticisms about Graham Platner, but the silver lining here is that left populism is demonstrably successful, even in places like Maine. And it's clear that that is the case, okay? Now, what I think is going to happen in the upcoming months, in the lead up to the actual general election, is you're going to see some party officials and party members in the Democratic Party buck up and recognize the severity, recognize the danger of a Republican Congress, a Republican Senate, and actually, you know, defend Graham Platner and offer support to Graham Platner and try to get Graham Platner across the finish line. There will, however, be a lot of naysayers that operated within the primaries to limited success, continue to launch attacks against Graham Platner because they would rather a Bernie-crat lose to prove their priors and allow a Republican majority to take shape than to allow a Bernie-crat to win and prove their worldview to be insignificant, inconsequential, and wrong.
Controversies surrounding him.
I've made mistakes in my life, mistakes that I regret, that I live with, and that I continue to learn from.
Beset by a series of scandals, including allegations of physical abuse by a woman he dated over a decade ago, which Platner denied, calling them, quote, politically motivated.
You have had my back.
The Marine veteran and Maine oyster farmer released this video Tuesday reflecting on the race.
These past few weeks have been brutal.
Now, the hard part begins for Platner as the political newcomer aims to defeat five-term Republican Senator Susan Collins in November.
Susan Collins doesn't serve us. She serves Donald Trump.
While in South Carolina,
serving South Carolina has been the greatest honor of my life.
Congresswoman Nancy Mace lost her race for governor after the conservative firebrand failed to win the endorsement of President Trump, who instead backed the state's lieutenant governor, Pamela Yvette, who advanced to the June 23rd runoff against Attorney General Alan Wilson.
I'm going to endorse Alan Wilson for governor. I think he's going to mop the floor with Pamela Yvette.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing?
California, the governor's race has now narrowed. Republican Steve Hilton advanced to the general election to take on Democrat Javier Becerra. Now, Platner may be running as an outsider here in Maine, but last night, Washington top Democrats lined up behind him. And as for his opponent, Susan Collins, she said yesterday that these allegations against Platner are troubling and serious, and that he owes people of Maine a more detailed explanation. Eva.
Caitlin, thank you. If I'm in your campaign, or if I'm high up in the Democratic Party, at this point, I have a few questions in terms of the health of your campaign.
Anyway, yeah, he had some really good bars.
And moving forward into the...
He had some really good bars in his acceptance speech last night. Don't know if I have that in the docket here. I do want to bring that up, where you know, he railed against all of the forces. He railed against all the forces that coalesced to attack him, and said, you know, we're doing it. We're doing the damn thing. We're fighting back. All this shit. Do you have a license to bounce on it the way you do? Yes, I do. I do have my license to bounce on it. Yeah. He had some good lines here. He talks about redemption.
Son of rural Maine. I was a kid who picked blueberries under the July sun, and then one day, I was a kid who signed up and left to fight for his country. And when I returned...
For the record, whenever he says I fought for freedoms or whatever, I cringe. Okay? It's cringes to be like, oh, I fought for freedom. I fought for freedom. It's unbelievably inconsistent with the other statements that he's made about his service, specifically in private when he was, you know, a Redditor. And I suspect it's because he wants to win an election rather than showcase his like actual opinion that he fought for, you know, preserving him out to Iraq. It's unbelievably cringe. It's also ridiculous. I don't even think he has to say that. You can say that you believed that was your intention, that you believed it was honest, you believed it was earnest, and then you felt discouraged when you actually served, when you actually put on the, when you actually put on the uniform and you went out there and you were broken by some of the actions that you committed, you know, something like that.
I carried with me the weight of forever wars and the struggle and the alienation that came with it.
Okay, never mind. I spoke too soon. He literally did follow up with that. Never mind. Okay, good. Because sometimes I hear him say that. Like, I watched his Ro Khanna thing that he did, and I was just like, it was cringe. If he just lets the I fought for freedoms hang, I'm like, ugh. Because he did do that with Ro Khanna.
But I'm also a lucky one.
Spoke too soon.
Who found his way back. Who found a living on the sea, in a home, in a community that offered love and redemption.
Sometimes precog is off.
Redemption is not just some simple or easy.
I do like this message, by the way. The redemption message, awesome. Banger. Very, very HasanAbi head coded. This is like a fundamental principle that I abide by as well in terms of redemption. And I really like the redemption message that he talks about. Like, we allow people room to grow, and we give them grace. Everyone's on their own journey. I really, really like that.
Easy destination. It's a journey. I've made mistakes in my life, mistakes that I regret, that I live with, and that I continue to learn from. And I'm still far from perfect. But every day, I wake up and I try to be a little bit better and a little bit kinder than I was the day before. And if you give me the chance, I will be a senator for the people who cannot afford to buy a senator.
Bars. I'm going to say something that's going to create a nuclear atom bomb in the discourse here. It's going to piss off everyone. Are you ready for it? Something that I think is very important. Because if you recall, like there's a couple people in our flank, in our side, that have been critical of Graham Platner. And or have refused to endorse Graham Platner, or has just been like, I haven't endorsed anybody in this race, right? AOC is one of them. AOC said something that I think is perfectly appropriate to say about her endorsement process. Okay? AOC came out and said broadly, when she's making endorsements, that she looks at someone's track record. She even went so far as to say, just because, no, this is not the video where she says, I haven't endorsed anybody in the race. She said, just because someone says the right things doesn't mean I'm going to automatically assume that they are invested in fighting this fight. Just because someone has a good policy page doesn't mean that they are, doesn't mean that they have the actual background, right? Graham Platner talks the talk. But does Graham Platner walk the walk is a real consideration. I think it's a perfectly valid thing to call into question as a matter of fact. The reason why I say that is because while Graham Platner is incredibly solid on the messaging side, and I like that a lot, does he have the organizing background? Because there are plenty who I have endorsed, who I've worked alongside, that do have that organizing background, right? Yeah, AOC has quietly played the sharpest endorsement game of any Dem this cycle. It was a quote retweet of this. Giving the late and perhaps decisive boost to at least 4 progressive underdogs who narrowly won their primaries. Let me see if I can find the actual the actual quote retweet of this that I read that I liked. I think it was the Axios guy. What's his name? It was the Axios guy that said it. So here's the thing. I like what the Graham Platner campaign spells for insurgency campaigns and insurgency candidacies all around the country. Okay? I like it quite a bit. But as far as people's skepticisms goes, I also understand that as well. Here's what AOC told me about her endorsements in March, says Andrew Sullender. Anybody can put up a website and put a list of policy commitments on it. We have to see, is there a record on those commitments? What is the relationship to an on-the-ground field force like? That is 100% the right attitude to have with endorsements. I say this now, especially as someone who does work with a lot of candidates, who does actually hype up a lot of candidates, who has now seen some defeats and seen some successes with the candidates that I work with. The magic zone for me is when a candidate has good messaging, a good policy platform, but also on top of that, actual work in the field to advance some of these agendas, some of these, some of these policy platforms, like genuinely has done some work to move in this direction. And last but not least, and this is the most consequential aspect of it, on the ground organizational backing, a ground team. When you have all of the above, you're going to probably win. Okay? With Shoykot, he didn't have that last one, right? I believed that he had enough experience in this space, advancing certain agendas, given his, given the Justice Democrats and all the work that he had done with the Justice Democrats. I think that he had actually worked hard enough to establish legitimacy. Many people did not believe that, and specifically people on the ground didn't believe it, right? That's part of the reason why he lost. Is bro for Trump? That's awesome. So yeah, I do agree with this assessment that she's making here. Biggest one you're missing is prior elected office. Progressive candidates who have won, for the most part, already have a constituency base. No. Prior elected office is good. It's great, especially if you're a progressive force with experience in elected office to a certain degree, right? However, like Daria Lisa doesn't have prior elected office experience, but it doesn't matter because she's an organizer. She's worked on these causes, right? Like immigrant advocacy, things of that nature. Where's the piss off section? Oh, I thought people were going to get mad at me for saying this because there are AOC haters in here and then there are Graham Platner haters in here. And I end up merging best of both worlds here and say that AOC's non-endorsement of Graham Platner most likely comes from the fact that Graham Platner doesn't have that background. Like, that's where it comes from. Now, of course, do I want Graham Platner to win this fucking race? Abso-fucking-lutely I do, for a million different reasons. I have the leftist reasons why I want Graham Platner to win, okay? Regardless of all that skepticism, regardless of all that scrutiny, the lack of experience that he has in terms of organizing on the ground, like the local DSA not actually or almost endorsing him and then not endorsing him. These are all considerations from my perspective. Having said that, none of that matters. It's all immaterial. He's organizing. No, he's organizing now, and he's doing a great job at it. But we're talking about like legitimacy in this space, experience in this space. If Graham Platner was like out there, other than Socialist Rifle Association work that he's done, I haven't seen much in terms of like getting involved in his background, getting involved with like local organizations. That's it. Even though it certainly doesn't matter right now because, you know, it's time for him to defeat Susan Collins, and he's going to get attacked a lot, mercilessly, viciously. This is so dishonest. He has a long track record of organizing on Reddit. Is that a joke? Are you making a joke? Like, is the joke that you're making that he was a poster, which is the ultimate form of organizing, is the highest posting, the highest? Oh, okay. Posting the highest form of organizing. Yeah. But yeah, one thing I will say on this side, on this front, he's a grade A yapper. He's gay as hell. G-A-Y, grade A yapper. He is a yapper through and through. He's great on message, okay? Down to the optics, down to everything else. Like, rugged guy, says all the right things. To me, this means that this is a message that people want to hear. That's a good thing. I will never look a gift horse in the mouth and say, how old is this gift horse? I will never say that. Okay? This is a gift horse. This horse was gifted to us. Okay? Don't look at the teeth to see how far extended they are to try to figure out how old the horse is. That's how you figure out the age of a horse, by the way, that you don't know. As horses age, their teeth start pushing outward. That's where that statement comes from. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Sorry, I'm a horse girl, so I have to, give you additional information.
I will stand up for you and against billionaires and greedy corporations. I will serve you, the people of Maine, not some lobbyist or party boss. I will be the champion for your dreams as if it were my own, no matter the challenge or the expense. I will fight for you. I have been willing to die for my country. There is nothing that I will not do for the state of Maine. You have...
Is he his attack against...
Collins has voted to send billions of our taxpayer dollars to fund other people's wars. Susan Collins, how do you justify closing hospitals in Maine while using our tax dollars to destroy them halfway around the world? Friends died.
Railing on the establishment.
Maine, I love you. I love this state.
Oh my God.
Now, the national pundits, the political establishment, they keep looking for that one story, that one headline, that one moment in my life that they can define the campaign by. But in trying so hard to understand me, they failed to understand that this is not about me at all. This is a movement about us, about the far too many working far too hard and struggling far too much at the hands of the ruling class. It is not a story of my hardship, it's of our hardship. A story of the hardship of every working Mainer. People that used to be able to stern in the summertime, plow in the winter, dig clams, and be able to send your kid off to college, but you can't anymore. Because that hard work, it isn't enough now. This story, the story of this...
This is a banger. I mean, this part is banger after banger, wall to wall, very good. This is what I mean when I say this guy's message his messaging, the optics of it. I know that some people don't like the grunt force vibes, but I think his message is so fucking sound. Excellent. A+. Very, very good. And better yet, he proves the point I've been making for the past couple of months, okay? The point that I've been making for the past couple of months is that old whites want to hear this shit, okay? A lot of people kept telling me over and over again, oh, dude, Americans are not ready for this. Americans are not ready for a movement like this. They are, bro. Old whites especially are. The Barbaras and the Deborahs are ready. They're saying, strap me to a missile and launch me towards the White House. That's what the Barbaras are saying. The Deborahs, the Barbaras have had enough of business as usual politics, and yet many of you in here don't want to fucking hear it. You're not ready for it. That's the real truth, Nuke. Look behind him. Those are not DSA cadres, chat. Those are not comrade, those are not the people that you would expect, the Maoists, the Marxists, Leninists, the third worlders. Those are not cadres, those are padres. Exactly.
This campaign, it's not about how the political establishment counted me out. It's about for how far too long the political establishment has counted out the voices of every single person without the money to buy influence. But they don't know Maine.
The Deborahs and Barbaras are ready for a fucking political revolution, bro.
General, which is a whole different ballgame. So here's my first. You were asked this question by Chris Hayes about the issue of, is there more out there? What else could be out there that might be revealed during the campaign? And you deflected, said, among other things, this is between you and your wife. It was understandable to a limit because for main vote, the question is, what is out there? What is not in your possession that you sent to others who may have in their possession? How many concerning pictures and or text messages are in the possession of other people that could be used against you? And I'd like to...
Come on. Give me something good. She's like, come on. You got some dick pics? She's like, why won't you show hog? Please, will you show hog, please?
To know if there are pictures, concerning pictures.
I will just say that the nature of Amy and I's relationship has been blown, I would say, totally out of proportion. Early in our marriage, we had some struggles, and we worked through them because that's what you do when you're in love with somebody. And it made our marriage much stronger, made us, frankly, a much happier and communicative couple. I was single for the majority of my adult life. I was in my 20s and 30s and I dated. And, you know, that's in the modern age. That's what happens. You date people and you use dating apps and you do all this stuff. And frankly, that all happened long before I got married and happened long before I decided to run for the United States Senate. I can just tell you, there is nothing out there that is going to be, will run counter to any of the stories that I've talked about openly this entire campaign. And I know everyone continues to be like, oh, what else is coming? You know, ironically,
right.
The whole what else is coming has essentially been the same thing the whole time, which is I've been very open about the fact that I struggled, very open about the fact that I had a long litany of failed relationships for years because I myself was not in a good place. And then every now and again, we will have a media outlet or a politically motivated attack come up and try to drag it all up. But it's all very much within the exact same story that I've told this entire time.
Okay, so you say there's nothing out there that could be concerning. And this may seem a little bit rich.
There's nothing out there. I just want to make this clear. There's nothing out there that's actually concerning. People will make everything seem very concerning because that's what people do in politics. But You know, I think the thing about all of this is what I find to be kind of most curious is this is what everyone wants to make the campaign about. So we do not talk about the struggles of working Mainers. We do not talk about the fact that I know someone in my hometown here who works 3 jobs and pays over.
Yep. There we go. Finally, holy shit. This is what I've been saying. Dog, that's it. I've already accounted for the things I've done in the past. I'm willing to bet that outside of the town halls and outside of the Mainers who voted for me yesterday, the overwhelming majority of outsiders who've been tuning into this race don't know a single thing about the policies that I'm advancing, about the things that I want to do as a senator. And that is precisely the point. Every moment that we spend where people try to manufacture outrage where there is none, you know, I'm an imperfect person. There's no, you know, I have blemishes on my record, of course. That's just how it goes when you have a regular working class, you know, average Joe who runs for office. But every single moment that we talk about the blemishes of my track record is a moment where we're not having a conversation about the problems that persist for Mainers. This is the whole point of establishment media and why there's so much enmity towards establishment media. This is the whole reason why business as usual politics is, is something that people despise.
60% of her monthly income in rent. I think that matters a lot more than the details of my relationship before I ran for United States Senate. That's just me.
Okay, so then let me ask you this way. Can you just talk about the nature of the sexting in terms of can you call for the release of the Epstein files? And can you call...
This is an insane line. I think she wanted to hit a Hail Mary here and said, fuck it, why not? Maybe I can tie consensual sexting between adults to mass pedophilic rape that is a, espionage blackmail operation that seemingly every financial elite was involved in, which is like, that's not even, I don't even know what to call that. Oh, it says here that, you went to a boxing ring for many years and you learned how to fight hand-to-hand combat. Do you feel like you could sufficiently call out this mass murderer who went into a school and shot up everyone, considering that you were, a professional fighter for an extended period of time? It's like those two things are not on the same planet. That's an insane comparison to make.
Those who have abused women and not be conflicted in any way?
Yes, of course. I mean, I engaged in consensual romantic activities with adults at an earlier part in my life. That seems like a fairly normal thing most people do. Going to an island with billionaires to possibly assault children is a vastly, vastly different thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you wish that this had come out earlier and in your own way?
No, I mean, this was a very private thing for my wife and I. And the only reason it's out is because we confided in someone we trusted on the campaign who then went and broke that trust. So it's, Amy and I have a very strong marriage. And it's mostly strong because of some of the challenges we faced early on and the work we did to get through it. So, no, I mean, I'm not happy it's out, but it's also, it's not again, I would say it's been entirely blown out of proportion as to what the reality of the situation is.
Mr. Platner, good morning. Let me ask you about the race ahead now that you won by a wide margin last night. Susan Collins hasn't really had a close race in a long time. 6 years ago, it was under double digits. She won by 8 points. But there always seems to be this idea, because Maine in presidential elections goes blue by and large, that this is the time that Susan Collins is going to be defeated, and yet it never seems to be. So why do you believe this time Mainers will walk away from Susan Collins, as I assume you believe they will?
Well, I believe they will because I am a normal Mainer, and I have lots of normal Mainer friends, and everybody.
Dude, this destroys third-way neoliberalism. If there's a victory here, you understand, like, this is perhaps more consequential than the Zoran victory in Zoran's governance, even though he's not DSA aligned, or he is DSA aligned, but he's not DSA. Do you understand why? Because for years and years, the Democratic establishment presented this idea of how to win elections. The idea that we can't go more progressive, we can't do left economic populism, because left economic populism scares voters. A similar predicament existed with the Israel narratives. Oh, you can't talk about Israel. You can't be negative on Israel. They will destroy you. The voters actually love Israel. Of course, ironically enough, AIPAC still tries to maintain that message by trying to actively subvert democracy. And then after successfully doing so, coming out and being like, see, it doesn't pay to shit on Israel. Voters actually will destroy you, like they did with Thomas Massie. But this is a huge blow against third-way neoliberalism, because they have tried so hard to present not people like Graham Platner, but instead people like Janet Mills as the only lost over and over again. Believe me when I say this, if Graham Platner wins this race, which I think he will, this will have tremendous positive reverberations across the rest of the country. Because now, just as we point to Zoran's victory as a way to win elections in the future, and Zoran's success in governance as an alternative that people respond positively to, we can do the same for purple states and red states alike.
Republicans, Democrats, independents. A lot of people in this state are sick and tired of someone who, for decades now, has not really stood up for the people of Maine. Someone who will not hold the Trump administration to account. Someone who has gotten quite wealthy while in office, trading stocks and bonds, which is a very unpopular thing for those of us down here that don't have stocks and bonds. Someone who promised to protect Roe v. Wade and then went and voted for Brett Kavanaugh and brought about the destruction of a woman's right to choose in this country. Those are real things that people see there, and they bring about material realities for us down here on the ground. And I am fully convinced that people in this state are sick and tired of this kind of politics as usual, like corporatist establishment politician, which Susan Collins really is the avatar of. Now, I will say this. The Republican Party, the people that donate to Susan Collins, the people that support her, they know the stakes of this thing. And so they are dumping millions of dollars into the state of Maine in attack ads against us already. We'll say for anybody who's watching at home, if you want to see Susan Collins beaten, please go to grantforsenate.com and donate. We can definitely use the help.
You're going to link up with Platner? Probably not. I think this is 100% true, but to beat Susan Collins, you need 65-year-old moderate white ladies who are to the right of primary voters. Yeah, and they fucking love Graham Platner. Why did Neera Tanden choose to remain anonymous while repeating her tweet verbatim? Yeah, it's so funny and so dumb that she keeps saying this over and over again, implying that, like, policy-wise, you have to go to the right when it's actually the opposite.
But the stakes of this are so high because we really are looking at, is this country going to be able to go in a direction of a politics that is accessible, a politics that is representative of regular people, and then a politics that therefore represents regular working people? Or do we maintain the status quo? Do we maintain a politics?
I can't begin to explain how selfish these fucking creatures are, by the way. Like the Neera Tandons of the world, who will literally do everything they can in their power to protect their sinecure, okay? They will do anything in their power. They will try to tank this fucking race because this race's victory is a direct shot against the pathway to success that Neera Tanden has presented her entire career. Constantly demanding pivots to the right. All of a sudden, that argument fucking falls apart. And these guys would rather do everything in their power to force a failure here than to allow a Democratic majority to take place in the Senate if that majority vote comes from a guy who is a left populist and also anti-Israel. Obviously, that's a huge, huge motivator for a lot of people.
that allows for billionaires and corporations to continue to get richer and richer and richer year after year, while those of us that work for a living work harder and longer and for less. And I think the answer to that up here in the state of Maine is people want change.
As you've been hearing for months from your Democratic opponents, and now will grow louder with the Collins campaign and Republicans even nationally, the argument against you is that all of the comments that you've talked about and addressed and said you were at a bad time in your life, the past comments about black people, calling yourself a communist, talking about police, talking about armed resistance for the working class.
Brother, how are those things on the same planet? Talking poorly about black people and calling yourself a communist, or saying that we need to arm ourselves to protect ourselves to do a revolution, not on the same zip code, nor are they on the same planet. Maybe not the same fucking galaxy. Hello? God damn, dude. From Morning Joe's perspective, it's like, I don't even know what he said about black people. I'm certain it wasn't like anything that consequential, but because all of the other stuff that he said that they make a big deal about is usually like in context is still inappropriate, but never like heinous, right? Oh yeah. Yeah, it was on Reddit. I think it was literally like one of those like AMA, ask a bartender thing, right? And I think it was something along the lines of like black people and tipping. I think it was something about black people and tipping, right? And that was the fucked up thing that he said. You know what's really funny? If he was a regular run-of-the-mill Democrat, they wouldn't even make a big deal about that. But he asked where the stereotype came from or something like that. Oh, okay. But what's really funny is from the perspective of guys like at Morning Joe, I swear to God, him being anti-black is nowhere near as bad as him saying he's a communist. Like, they legitimately think that's worse.
They say that's who you really are, and that you've kind of cleaned yourself up to run this campaign to get into the United States Senate. So how do you, for people just kind of tuning into this race, perhaps even in Maine, but certainly nationally, how do you address that criticism? Because it's kind of at the heart of the argument against you, which is you actually are that guy from 10 or 12 years ago, and that you polished yourself for the election. What do you say to that?
I would say that they really do not grasp what is happening up here in Maine, because they continue to try to make this race about me. And what they fail to understand is it's not about me at all. It's about us. It's about Maine. It's about the working people of this state.
See, if anybody, I watched that thug that's up in Maine. He's a thug. And they're trying to make excuses for him. I mean, he's worse than any...
Dude, this is a gift. Donald Trump coming out and saying Graham Platner is a thug and is worse than anyone else who's ever run for office is literally the greatest gift of all time that you can give to Graham Platner. Okay? Buddy, you are the standard bearer of pedophilic representation in office. When you call someone a bad guy, that literally carries the opposite weight, and it causes people to assume he's a good guy. This serves the same role as an endorsement, because everything that they've said that Graham Platner has done, ironically, Donald Trump actually has done and has been found liable. Like, shit that people speculate Graham Platner may have done, Trump has done. And shamelessly, so from that perspective, that comparison, as I repeatedly told you, from that comparison, like when he makes that comparison on his own, it is a gift. It is a gift to Graham Platner.
Human being that's ever run for office, probably. I don't know him. I don't want to say bad, but I just, look, I mean, nobody's ever had a record like that. And you'll have Schumer, he goes crazy over this or that, or Epstein. This guy, why are they talking about him? He said, well, we don't know, but this guy's got a rap sheet. I've never seen anything like it. He's a thug. I know thugs. I had to deal with thugs. I built a lot of buildings. I dealt with the toughest people on earth. I dealt with worse than thugs. This guy's a thug. He's a low-level thug. And he's running to be a senator, to work with Eric Schmidt. Great, Eric will handle him. I think to be with Barrasso, who the hell do we have to be with Rand? Now, Rand would be very interesting with him. Rand would figure it out. He'll put him away. But this is a thug. He's a cheap, no good person. And I watch these senators, the Democrats, and, well, we don't really know. You do know. He's as bad. I've never seen a person like that run for office. And the guy from Texas, different, but he's terrible too. He's terrible. These are radical left communists. But I watched this guy this morning, and he was so bad. He was so bad. He's a bad guy, just a bad guy. He must be laughing up his sleeve when he looks at these idiots going like Schumer, well, he's okay, he's okay. He's not okay. Can you imagine if the Republicans had him?
Oh, my God.
How about if we had him, John? So,
Wouldn't let it happen.
well, I really believe it. If it meant losing the Senate, you would not let that happen. It's just a terrible thing. I mean, I watch it happening. It's unfolding. It's really history because there's never been a guy like that that's ever run for office. At any level. I don't think at any level. And the excuse somebody comes forward with really proven stuff. Even his business, he's not a businessman at all. His parents supported him. Guy's a loser. Other than that, he might be a very nice guy. But very simply, the radical...
You mentioned the Senate race in Maine. Are you all in supporting Susan Collins? Does she have your full support and endorsement in her Senate
She does
re-election?
because she's a sane woman. She's not my best friend at all. These guys are. I get along well, but I have some. But she's a sane person. And she's a person that never missed a vote in many years. I mean, she's had 10,000 votes. She had 10,000 votes. She never missed a vote. Unfortunately, because sometimes she voted against me. Look, she's a sane woman. And she's a respected person. Maybe a little different ideology than me. But
It's so funny that he has to sit there and endorse Susan Collins, someone he objectively hates. It's awesome. He just has to sit there and endorse a person that he despises. Make no mistake, Susan Collins has voted with Trump basically like 98% of the way. But it's that 2% that matters for Trump. He hates that shit. And because of that, he does not like Susan Collins. But because he doesn't want to lose the majority in the Senate, he has to sit there and fucking white knuckle through this endorsement process and be like, well, we don't agree all the time. As a matter of fact, we never agree, but I have to say she's wonderful. She's great. I love her. She's going to be so good.
this guy is a thug. He's a fake thug. He's a phony. I made a lot of money picking out phonies. He's a real phony. He's a bad person. Yeah.
Senator, do you believe the women accusing Platner of abuse? Do you believe these allegations that are out there right now? You were campaigning for him recently, so I was wondering what you think about the allegations made against him. About the women saying he knew that he had a Nazi tattoo?
The American people are tired of women. Say it, Bernie. Say it just like you have in the past. Say the words, Bernie. The American people are tired of women.
You have nothing to say about the scandal? Latest one? Anything you could say, sir, would be great. We appreciate it.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
It is.
Your mayor has spoken. New York City mayor denies the secure perimeter around MSG for Knicks 4 was a last-minute decision and says it wasn't due to some of the violence at watch parties. However, no one should be getting threatened, attacked on the basis of wearing a Spurs jersey.
And were you concerned at all by any of the violence after Game 3? And is that one of the reasons why the city decided to put up the frozen zone in place before the Game 4 watch party? And separately, are you guys concerned about some of the businesses in that frozen zone area, how that's going to impact them for what's going to be a really big night?
So I want to go through a number of things. The first is that any New Yorker can go to those restaurants and bars around Midtown across that area. Second of all, the procedures that we put in place for Game 4 did not have to do with Game 3. 3. You heard from our police commissioner at the security briefing that there were going to be increased security procedures to ensure that everyone can remain safe. The approach that we're going to have is going to be akin to what the NYPD does for events at this large scale, whether we're talking about July 4th or we're talking about New Year's Day. And your first question?
Just what were your thoughts on some of the violence, and was that one of the reasons why?
So the procedures for Game 4 were long-standing, as the police commissioner shared. However, there is no tolerance for that kind of violence in our city. No one should be getting threatened, attacked.
See, that's how you know he's not a real revolutionary, bro. He doesn't want to endorse ultra violence against the fucking Spurs fans. That's me. I'm the guy who's like, oh, I can't believe it, dude. This guy's a freaking phony, dude.
Some of the most.
I thought you'd let me beat the shit out of Spurs fans, dude. Wow. You've betrayed the Palestinians, and now you betray the New York Knicks. He's saying this to protect you? Yeah, of course. Key.
On the basis of wearing a Spurs jersey. And as excited as New Yorkers are, and the vast majority of New Yorkers are celebrating responsibly, those kinds of incidents are unacceptable, and we do not stand for that at all in our city.
Should there have been maybe a little bit more of an advance warning about the frozen zone if this was going to be the plan?
I think, as you heard from Police Commissioner Tisch, she had said in advance of Game 3 that there were going to be additional procedures for Game 4. However, given that the president is not attending Game 4, there are a number of things that are not being replicated from Game 3. Some of those include the fact that now vehicular traffic can move up and down 8th Avenue, that the large-scale barriers that the Secret Service erected around Madison Square Garden are being taken down, and we're actually ensuring that this is a space where a lot more New Yorkers can go through. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, assaulting Spurs fans is crazy work. Yeah, obviously. It's fucking insane. It's also expected of like Massachusetts sports fans. It's expected of Philadelphia sports fans. I'm actually kind of surprised. That New York sports fans are doing that now. Like, what are you, fucking Philly sports team enjoyers? Are you Philly team enjoyers? Yeah, you might as well say go Birds, actually. Anyway, this is Platner's first general election ad.
Most powerful Democrats and Republicans in the country were on Epstein Island. It seems the only thing the party establishments can agree on is a love of Jeffrey Epstein and a hatred of me. I'm Graham Platner, and I approve this message because together we will take back our government from the...
I mean, that's beast mode, to be like, everyone who hates me is a pedophile. Look, he's running they're calling this the most HasanAbi campaign of all time, okay? He's about to be like, judge me by my enemies, okay? They all happen to be best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know why. It's also a Trump method, too, and it's very effective. More on Collins. Oh, my God. How many more?
If you reflect Maine's values, why are you funding masked agents who are ripping our neighbors off the streets, driving them off in unmarked vans? That is not the freedom that I serve 4 tours defending. If you are an independent voice, why do you vote with Donald Trump 95% of the time? If you're so bipartisan, why were you the deciding vote to put Brett Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court? The deciding vote to defund our health care and our hospitals? Why did you rubber stamp the greatest redistribution of wealth from the working class to the ruling class in the history of our nation? Susan Collins is only bipartisan when it doesn't matter. Susan Collins calls herself the gold standard of common sense. Common sense would be Mainers not having to choose between seeing a doctor or paying your mortgage. Common sense would be banning billionaires from buying elections. And it would also be giving workers the same seat at the table as CEOs. Common sense would be a minimum wage that's a living wage. It would be keeping our hospitals open and our schools funded and our kids from having to fight in another generation of forever wars. Should be unafraid of upsetting the wannabe king to whom Susan Collins bows. Susan Collins said she would only serve 2 terms. She's now running for her 6th. She has worked in politics longer than Joe Biden. She hasn't held a town hall since I was in 8th grade.
Centrists were really mad about this one because he brought up Joe Biden in a disparaging way. And they were on the timeline fucking being like, oh, were you expecting booze for Joe Biden and you didn't receive him? I bet you wanted to kill yourself in that moment. Maybe you should actually. You still have time. because, you know, Israel firsters, there are some very real ones on the internet. They're not in the real world. They don't exist. They literally do not exist in the real world. I cannot stress this enough, okay? Twitter is not real life. Blue Sky is even less real life than Twitter is. I saw a post, someone screenshot it from Blue Sky talking about whatever that lady is that wanted to do a writing campaign last second, De La Flame or whatever. And there were more people that had retweeted it than the number of people in Maine that actually voted for her in the writing campaign. It's crazy, man. These people are all over Threads. They're all over Blue Sky. But you know where they're not? At the fucking ballot box. So remember that when you see something pop off on the internet, when you see something constantly fucking droning on, when you see nuisances over and over again, when people are greatly overestimating their importance, remember that those people do not matter. It's true. Heartwarming. They created a blue sky reservation in upstate Maine. Oh my God. That's beautiful. 757 people got together in one fucking neighborhood and was like, I'm sick and tired of this bullshit. All-timer Blue Sky screenshot, checking in on Blue Sky. Liv Moss, respectfully, it's a disgusting image and disappointing. We give your immense credibility, intellect, and talents to promote a company that contributes 70% of Americans 20 and older being overweight, 40% obese with chronic illnesses following. Any U.S. flight is proof. Andrea Laflamme, who ran as a Platner alternative in Maine and became a favorite of many Blue Sky users, is getting 781 votes, or 0.4%. One of her Blue Sky posts last month got more engagement than that, and this is from the eve of the primary. This is what I mean, bro. Like, what the fuck? If you were to go to, Graham Platner has no shot. MSG requested a permit for a watch party for 500 and 999 fans. We approved that permit for 999 fans. Mr. Dolan has now decided to cancel the watch party. Now this is breaking hearts across the city. But if there's one thing Knicks fans don't need permission for is showing up for our team wherever we may be, no matter the block or the borough. Knicks in 5. It's ableist to say Susan Collins has essential tremors. It's not fatal and it doesn't impede her job. There are plenty of ways to criticize Susan Collins. I give her hell every day, but this is just ableism. Come on, DC Bureau Chief for the Independent and MS News Now columnist. I thought we packed this up at Woke One. I thought this was a Woke One relic, Oh my God. She's ancient, bro. She's ancient. It's like they tried to do this with Joe Biden, remember? They were like, excuse me, he has a stutter. Really? That's why he's saying habubba-da-ba-da? That's the stutter? Because I just saw a piece of his fucking brain matter leak out of his ear. What do you mean it's his stutter? I don't think there's any stutter that causes that to happen. Yeah, man. She's old. She's old as fuck. Susan Collins still using photos of herself from 2014 in the year of our Lord. Debate between Joe Brandon and Nick Shitley. Who wins? Brandon clears.
I've held 83 town halls in the past 8 months. What are you trying to hide, Senator Collins? Now, the truth is, Susan Collins doesn't serve us. She serves Donald Trump. She serves the Epstein class. She serves her corporate donors and the corrupt political system that has rigged the economy against us. She does not serve us, and so we will defeat Susan Collins.
Asked Kirsten Gillibrand if she had concerns with Platner after the New York Times report given her role in the Franken saga. She responded by saying, I think Graham showed a great deal of support in the primary, and I think that's going to build momentum, and I will assure that we will win Maine. Asked if she had any concerns about Platner's alleged conduct as detailed in last week's New York Times report, Gillibrand said the voters in Maine have been clear, and I think that he's going to continue to build support. It's Jover. Well, now we know. Now we know where the line is. Now we know where the line is. For Kirsten Gillibrand, Islam is the line. Okay? That's right. It turns out for Kirsten Gillibrand, the only thing she cares about is actually Islam. Okay? Glad that she's come on board. Glad that she's back on the team. Okay? Kirsten was like, oh, he's white. And that is right. White is right, says Kirsten Gillibrand. Kirsten Gillibrand responded with, well, does he face Mecca 5 times a day? If not, I have no problem. Yeah. I have no problem with Graham Platner because he's not actually doing global jihad in the same way that the New York mayor is.
And Susan Collins has never met a war she didn't like. She's been supporting endless wars since I was a teenager, and I know I had to fight in 2 of them. Senator Collins, I got blown up while you handed out billions of dollars to defense companies that invest in you. Sorry, that you're invested in.
Don't read this now, but I'm pretty sure this Graham guy has had sex before. Stop. I'm afraid Susan Collins, who has never had sex, deserves to be the next senator of Maine. I'm afraid with this new information, there's no other choice. We were Pills Mafia till the bitter end, and now, as Mainers, as people who vote illegally in Maine, this entire community does, we have no choice but to vote for the not sex haver in the Senate race, and that is, without a shadow of doubt, Susan Collins. Yeah, this is the literal exact discussion Platner wants right now. Trump on Platner. He's a thug, and they've been making excuses for him. He's worse than any human being that's ever run for office. Making the scandals a question of, is Platner worse than a person? Is worse of a person that gets through with this with as little damage as possible, which is a very big question. The latest news did sink his one strong favorabilities by quite a bit. Hegseth confirms to Barack Unit 8200 Ravid. Hegseth tells reporters at CENTCOM will be busy tonight because we're going to hit Iran hard. Iran has a chance to make a great deal. They haven't been willing to it. They are going to have to tap. They are going to have tap, bombs dropping on key facilities from Iran, in Iran from the U.S. It is not to restart the war, but to set the terms for a deal. Okay. Yeah. If we negotiate with bombs, if we need to negotiate with bombs, we'll negotiate with bombs. That's not how negotiations work. God, we are genuinely a country run by animals.
You and your friends profited, and my friends died. Susan Collins has voted to send billions of our taxpayer dollars to fund other people's wars. Susan Collins, how do you justify closing hospitals in Maine while using our tax dollars to destroy them halfway around the world?
Banger. Now let's hear from Jake Auchincloss. AIPAC-funded Rep. Jake Auchincloss has some choice words. If you recall, he said that he would refuse to endorse Graham Platner. Let's hear what he has to say now.
I think if the Democratic Party spends more time talking about Israel going into 28 than talking about America, we are going to be very poorly positioned for the general election.
You're such a fucking idiot, dude. Oh my God, you're so wrong. You could not be more wrong. 1, everybody fucking hates Israel. 2, everybody hates that we give so much money to Israel. You literally tied those 2 things together in the way that Graham Platner just did earlier. Whereas, like, why are we giving billions of dollars to Israel? They have healthcare. Our politicians who've signed off on billions of dollars to Israel over the course of their long tenures tell us we can't have fucking healthcare. It's a wrap. It's a fucking wrap. Oh, guys, don't talk about my emotional support apartheid state doing a genocide. You're being a meanie. Timu Jared Kushner? Oh my God.
American voters want to hear about a new American dream, about an excellent education by 18, about home ownership by 30, a dignified retirement by 65. Of course, we have to deal with foreign policy issues, but I think we have to deal with what foreign policy looks like in 28 and 2030, not what it looked like in 2020. And it's the absolute catastrophe that this president is leaving the next president in the Middle East. We're going to have to regionalize energy, infrastructure, defense ties throughout the Abraham Accords. We're going to have to think about how Ukraine's drone and counter-drone capabilities can help support our allies, Israel and otherwise, our Gulf state allies in the Middle East. We're going to have to think about an Indo-Pacific posture that unravels increasing Chinese belligerence now that we've stepped back from...
Oh my God. He ties it up to an even dumber message, which is we have to wage war with China. Look, Americans overwhelmingly are still not big fans of China. Okay? Wait, what the fuck? Scoop. Zohran Mamdani was poised to hold his first meeting with a foreign leader this week, but the Trump administration effectively nixed it in a behind-the-scenes effort that marks a new flashpoint between the mayor and Trump. Mamdani was poised to meet Colombian President Petro, a fellow Democratic socialist, to discuss democracy in the Americas, but the Colombians backed out following a meeting with U.S. officials in Bogota, in which U.S. officials said the event was unacceptable. The Trump administration remains upset about comments Petro made criticizing U.S. support for Israel and calling on U.S. soldiers to disobey presidential orders to kill during his last visit to the U.S. Analysts called it an extraordinary move. He's not a dictator. His term ends in 2 months. It appears that he's being punished for the crime of criticizing the Trump administration. You know why? I know why. He actually did it to preserve Gustavo Petro's legacy. He was like, Donald Trump, here, I'll give you some tea. So Donald Trump actually doesn't like Zohran's revisionist tendencies, and he knows that Gustavo Petro is not a mere democratic socialist, but a real Marxist-Leninist. And he was actually trying to preserve Gustavo Petro's legacy of supporting the Marxist-Leninist principled stance. And he did not want Gustavo Petro to meet with a democratic socialist revisionist like Zohran Mamdani. Yeah, that's JD Pandan, man. That's JD Pandan. That's how it works, actually. Iran strikes have begun. Explosions reported in southern Iran again. Oh, classic. Anyway, going back to the China argument, Americans are not exactly fond of China. Okay? Having said that, however, especially after this fucking quagmire, especially after this incident that took place with Iran, good luck telling Americans we got to wage war with China. Okay? Good fucking luck, dude. Americans are like, brother, please give me health care. What is this? What is all this fucking warfare? There is no argument less popular than this one, where it's like, we have to maintain our support for Israel because we have to go to war with China. And yet, here's a Democrat from Massachusetts, advancing moron. God, these people hate you so much. They think you're fucking stupid. Anyway, it's not. He's not alone, though. This seems to be the new line, says Brian Tashman. Yes, I want to send hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars to Israel, but why do you people care so much? It's not a new line. It's the not so subtle inference that you only care about Israel because Jews live there. It's the classic no Jews, no news attitude, right? Like that's a common Hasbara line. What is this? NBC contributor is an Israeli agent. NBC's Matt Gorman is an outrageous way to describe this man to NBC viewers when he has most recently been a registered foreign agent for the state of Israel. That NBC doesn't disclose that, and that they allow him on air to attack Platner is exactly why normal people support Platner and want him to take a wrecking ball to this corruption. Gorman's contract with the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs appears to have recently terminated, so perhaps this is a tryout for a new one. Let him on air and not disclose this is shameful.
Hey, look, in Maine, I think Susan Collins is going to beat him like a drum, and I believe that before the story came out yesterday. I mean, you're right. This was an incredible story with, abuse allegations.
I mean, he's also a Republican strategist, so,
And infidelity. Two of the other things I took away from it, besides he just seems to be a liar, is the fact that, his dispute about...
Someone I was canvassing with thought the U.S. should go to war for Taiwan and could win a war against China. DSA really is a melting pot for ideas sometimes, Lamau. Yes, the party line within the DSA organization on militarism needs to be fucking squashed. Like, there are, unironically, a lot of fucking NATO Atlanticist sock dems everywhere. People who fancy themselves to be very well read on this stuff, who think like, no, it's actually right for America to be the world police. It's far better than a non-interventionist policy with other countries. I mean, what are you talking about? Like, the idea that America ever moves against foreign adversaries for some moral purpose is one of the dumbest lies that people have told themselves. I don't understand how. I don't understand how you can actually believe that. I mean, if there's one country that is worthy of like genuine military intervention, it's fucking Israel. Okay? And instead of doing military intervention in the opposite direction, we're doing military intervention in the affirmative, where we're aiding and abetting Israel's genocide. So that goes to show that America has no investment in being the world police or being a moral force for good around the world. Okay? Straight up. Even when America's on the right side of an issue, Ukraine being one of them, It's there for the wrong reasons, okay? America's never on the right side of an issue for the right reasons, with the last exception of to that rule being World War II. And that was because FDR was a bit of a lion. Yes, he did some fucked up things as well. But on that issue, aligning with the Soviets and defeating the Nazi scourge, that man was a motherfucking lion. And I say the same thing about Stalin, too. Ask Rosa Luxemburg how that turned out. Oh, my God. This is the highest form of LARP. Shut up. I hate people who are like, Bernie killed Rosa Luxemburg is literally left book shit, dude. What is happening? All these new leftist babies that are finally getting around to learning about fucking revolutionary German history are hitting lines that I have heard a million times over before. This is not, you're a LARPer, okay? You're LARPing. Oh. Even in World War II, we only got dragged in. We provided material support, although it was on the correct side for sure until Japan attacked us. No, FDR wanted to join World War II. There was not enough popular support for it before Pearl Harbor. But FDR wanted to. FDR actually did want to join World War II even before Pearl Harbor. He was a lion. Straight up. FDR is the last time liberals and socialists, liberals and communists aligned with one another and created the greatest Nazi annihilation machine ever known to fucking man. Okay? That's the path that we should be charting. Okay? That is what we should be creating for a better future. Fascism is here. Which side are you on? Are you going to be the liberals that engage in appeasement? Are you going to be the liberals that make way for the Nazi scourge? Are you the liberals that say, oh, if we just give them, if we appoint them to chancellor status, if we give them a role of power in the government, maybe they'll just like quiet down? No.
Calls for calm have gone unanswered.
Yeah, there was a thing that took place in Belfast. And of course, the British came out in droves and did an anti-immigrant pogrom.
Disorder erupted across Belfast on Tuesday following a knife attack in the city the day before. A man in his 30s has been charged with attempted murder. But the fact that he had claimed asylum in the UK has fueled, with calls on social media for people to take.
Bro, don't call the Irish British. You're going to get killed. No, these are not Irish people that are protesting. These are the Protestants who LARP as though they're British. Notice the flag? This is the north of Ireland. It's Belfast. I've been there. It's beautiful. Unfortunately, the city is chopped in half by what is known as a peace wall, which is not dissimilar to the walls that you see in the West Bank. There's still people with sympathies to England, which ironically the British do not even reciprocate, living in the north of Ireland, refusing to recognize what time it is.
To the streets, shared even by Elon Musk, the owner of X. Across Belfast, buses and shops were set on fire, and bins dragged onto roads to create makeshift barricades.
Over there is a group of people blocking the road. They're surrounding a vehicle that had been set alight, and it is just one of a number of similar scenes we've seen in Belfast tonight on Tuesday night. The police advising people here not to go any further. It's not safe. Tensions in the city are bubbling.
Of course, the wannabe Brits would behave like Israelis. The wannabe Brits who are also pro-Israel, pro-Confederacy, pretty much on the wrong side of every political issue historically, would be on the wrong side of this issue as well.
Over.
It's exactly what community leaders had hoped to avoid.
There is no excuse whenever anger is turned into hatred. And we in Northern Ireland should, above all things, know the dangers of how, whenever that happens, people start to see their neighbour and their friend as their enemy.
As darkness fell, homes were engulfed by flames. Distraught residents led out by the emergency crews. The unrest comes amid wider tensions following a separate case in England, where 18-year-old Henry Novak was by a man who had falsely accused him of racism. And as he lay dying, it was Novak.
Yeah, I don't think the average prod in the North knows where Israel is, to be honest. They just know we support Palestine, so they do the opposite. Yes. No, literally. That's unironically the case.
Who was handcuffed by the police, an image that sparked outrage and triggered rioting in Southampton, where the murder took place.
I just wanted to say a few things about the riot in Belfast last night, because if my comments are anything to go by, people seem to be very confused about what's going on. First of all, these people are not Irish, or at least they don't identify.
See? So the chatters who were saying, oh, Hasan, you're wrong. Don't say that. Don't fucking test my knowledge of Ireland.
As Irish. They don't call themselves Irish. They don't believe that they live in Ireland. They are British loyalists, loyal to the King of England. They are living in what they consider to be British territory in Northern Ireland. The second thing is that this is not the same as when protests or riots even erupt in England. This is action that is sanctioned and directed by community leaders.
Don't say Northern Ireland. North of Ireland.
Those of us who grew up here or who have spent any real time in Belfast, when they saw the flyer yesterday advising of the road closures, they knew exactly what was going to happen last night. See, on the bottom of the flyer, there is a sentence that gives it all away, and the sentence says, all businesses are to close by 5:30 p.m. No excuses. So this is not a suggestion from a group of protesters. This is an order from community leaders. So whilst the streets of Belfast were full of masked men and youths hunting people of colour on the streets of Belfast last night, burning out cars and houses, attacking people in their homes, having small children fleeing into the back of police Land Rovers to escape attacks from inside their own community, there were also many people in Belfast hunkered down, hiding in their homes. There are many people in Belfast who do not support this, do not condone it, and would denounce it if they felt safe to do so. Despite that sort of unsaid threat, there is a responsibility in these communities to call out this behaviour and to say not in our name. I grew up in East Belfast, and the racism that is embedded in some of those communities is nothing new to me. It's part of a hangover of occupation and invasion of the British into Ireland. I cannot imagine what it's like to be living in East Belfast right now. Absolutely horrifying and terrifying to witness. Solidarity with everybody in Belfast who was fearing for their lives last night. Absolutely horrendous carry on.
In Belfast, there was heavy police presence trying to contain the unrest. But tensions over immigration are not likely to fade anytime soon. Milena Veselinovic, Al Jazeera.
Dude, Irish people are the
Protests
best.
erupted in northern.
Irish people are some of the best people, okay? Definitely peak white people, straight up. These people who are doing this shit are wannabe Brits, okay? They want to be British still, which is insane.
Ireland yesterday after graphic footage of a stabbing attack in the capital, Belfast, was shared widely online. A Sudanese man has been charged with attempted murder following the attack. Right-wing commentators and online critics, including billionaire Elon Musk, posted about the attack, and they called for protests against immigration hours before the violence erupted. NPR's Fatima Al-Qusab reports from London.
One video shows a young boy and his parents being led out of their home by firefighters as houses and cars burn around them. A bus was also set on fire, and footage shows masked men setting garbage cans alight. Politicians had called for calm after a video of a stabbing attack in Belfast circulated on social media. Northern Ireland's First Minister Michelle O'Neill said that groups of masked men were burning families out of their homes and called it outright thuggery. And she warned that there were dangerous attempts to exploit the stabbing attack. The violence erupted hours after right-wing commentators from England and the United States, including billionaire and ex-owner Elon Musk, had posted about the Belfast knife attack and called on people to protest against immigration. Fatima Al-Kassab, NPR News, London.
I'm Corva Coleman, NPR News. For more of today's news, check out NPR News Now, wherever you listen to podcasts.
As Belfast burned, a young family is bundled into a riot van, fleeing for their lives from their home, engulfed in flames. The morning after reveals the true extent of the damage, and the community torn by violence was clear to see.
I've lost a home, man. 13 years out here, and that's gone. The house is wrecked, man. The whole house is completely destroyed, from top to bottom.
What's your message to the people who have wrecked your property? And
It's not one of their own. One of their own. I understand they're all angry and all that, but I've just lost a home.
Boys just go to bed. I have 2 boys and 1 girl. It was a terrifying moment that I don't know how I could describe the moment the smoke was coming in. The alarm was on, constantly on. And I don't know what to tell the kid.
Nobody deserves any of this at all. They're just taking us back 50 years, only they're putting a different name on it. They're putting racism on it. So, don't know.
Described by leaders here as outright thuggery, all this was sparked by the attack on Stephen Ogilvie on Monday night. In court this morning, it emerged the victim in his 40s lost his left eye. In a statement, his family condemned the violence that followed. We want to make it absolutely clear, they said, that overnight unrest is not welcome and peaceful protest is the only way forward. The Sudanese suspect, Hadi Al-Udeid, appeared via video link at Belfast magistrates, refused bail. He'll be back in court next month. As the community recovers, condemnation from politicians.
People are rightly sickened by the horrific attack on Monday night in North Belfast. As you have just said, the man arrested has been in court in Belfast this morning and charged. We are united in calling for calm and determined to restore order, support the police and all those on the front line, and ensure that justice is done.
We know the suspect arrived in Northern Ireland via Dublin in 2023, receiving refuge. The First Minister of Northern Ireland not wanting to be drawn on worries about migration over the border with Ireland.
Well, I think there's a lot of misinformation out there in terms of immigration. Of course, immigration needs to be controlled. Of course, we need to have control over borders. There's no country in the world that doesn't have control of the borders. But I want to see an immigration system that is both enforceable, that is human rights compliant, that is stands up to international standards, that is like something that everybody can understand. But I think that's a debate for another day.
It's understood that 27 people have been made homeless in Belfast because of the violence. Reports foreign nationals were targeted, the focus of questions in the House of Lords.
I don't think any of us will ever be able to forget the image of a 9-year-old child and their family being put in the back of a Land Rover to be rescued from violent, racist thugs who were seeking to undermine them and to undermine their very sense of belonging in a country that many had lived in for decades.
What led to this destruction, the core reasons behind it, may well be far bigger than Monday night's attack alone. Regardless of that, Belfast is holding its breath, with a warning to those intent on further violence.
Anyone attacking any community can expect prison. The message from the judge in court today, one he said should be sent out loud and clear. Dan Whitehead, Sky News in Belfast.
They were mobilising young, angry men who were waiting for an excuse to commit violence. And as you can see, they certainly did that.
Sounds quite organised, unless I've misunderstood you, that they were all dressed similarly and all wearing balaclavas. I mean, that speaks not of something uniquely thrown up by the events of the last 24 hours, but of links with Northern Ireland's longer history.
Yeah, this is a loyalist area that we're in, and I saw some of the messages that were being pumped out and so.
Yeah, it is loyalists that are doing this shit. Of course it is. Why you bait us like that? Bait you like what? Why isn't it anyone called it a terrorist attack? Because it's right-wing reactionaries doing it. The suit colors fucked up your lighting. I know.
social media before the protest. And they asked all people who were attending to dress all in black and cover their faces and wear hoods. Very interestingly, James, I obviously came here last night expecting this place to be surrounded by police. When I got here, I couldn't find one police officer. They did steam in, though, when the firebombs started going through the windows. You can see here the consequences.
Why do you say north of Ireland and not Northern Ireland? Because I don't recognize a separate Ireland. Because Ireland is one, a united Ireland. I don't recognize the British occupation.
Of that. 4 police riot vans, they raced up this road, and they knew better than to get out the police vans, but the mob just turned on the police vans. They started smashing up the windscreens. They started tearing off the wing mirrors. And then minutes later, the vans had to retreat and abort their mission. So even the police couldn't get anywhere near this. They were just completely overrun by all the rioters.
And you're seeing firefighters, gosh, really having to help evacuate people. You know, we're talking about burning homes here. Children being moved out by the police. People really just unbelievably caught.
They were checking cars for minorities.
Shit, that's scary. They were tracking the cars, mate. What the fuck? Don't like it.
Up in this. This is street in Belfast. Pictures taken late last night, just highlighting the scale of what was happening.
Children pulled from their homes and put into the back of that ambulance. Children caught up in this.
I have been having a conversation. That property, the occupant of that property, who had to make an escape out the back. She says there were children here. It was a terrifying experience. She is from Ukraine. She has fled war in Ukraine and seemed fairly okay, actually, about what happened here, about what she endured, given her circumstances of where she has originated from. But let's have a listen to part of that interview now.
Someone said, like, the fire opposite to mine on fire. And then, like, it all, like, kind of blew up because of the cars in between, you know. Yeah, and, like, my front door was on fire as well. I mean, the house inside isn't damaged. It's more like the front of the house.
And were you in the house at the time?
Yeah, I was in the house with my dog, and I had to, like, escape through, like, the back door.
That he stood right over there and watched the whole house go up.
How are you feeling about that?
I've lost a home, mate. 13 years out here. And that's gone. The house is wrecked, mate. The whole house is completely destroyed. From top to bottom. It's literally all gone.
And did you see footage of, I mean, you were standing across the road watching it happen?
I seen it. The car was here even before it went up. It was a red car, and I seen him lighting it. I told him, this is my house, this is my house. I knew it was going to catch fire. And
so they were setting fire to the car, but then clearly
And then that one there. And then it was a red one. It caught fire the whole house. It was it with all the sparks on flying. It was actually the door went up first. And then I knew straight away that was it gone.
Was there anyone in the property at all?
No, the property was completely empty, no. That's what I says, I was standing there watching it. And literally told them before they lit the fire, I says, this is my house here. I'm sure they didn't care anyway, did they?
What's your message to the people who have wrecked your property? And
They've done it one of their own. One of their own. I understand they're all angry and all that, but I've just lost a hope.
I understand why they're angry and all that. Bro, that's crazy. You're literally staring at the fucking havoc that they caused and still going, yeah, I get being mad and stuff. You know, we got to deal with the whole problem of having the whole issue of having migrants in our communities, but you know, maybe it's a bit too far.
So
actually, last night, it was a very bad moment of my life. Again, saying whatever happened, I was in my house with my children.
I mean, that's like looking at a bunch of fascists doing a pogrom and then taking ownership over their actions, but saying they went a little too far is actually crazy. I don't understand what compels someone to do that, but I respect the chud fit for the game. It's not a chud fit, dude. What do you mean? I'm wearing a Mom Danistan shirt.
And the smoke came in, and then we were obliged to switch off, to close the window to prevent the smoke going in. And then my kid started to ask me, Daddy, where is smoke coming from?
And that was smoke from the bus?
The smoke from the bus, which was burnt yesterday.
And did you know at that stage it was from the bus, or was there confusion amid that moment as well?
I knew the tension which was in the city, I didn't know that already the bus took fire. I didn't know how to tell the children. My children have 2 boys and 1 girl in the house. They saw the smoke coming in. I couldn't know what to tell them.
And you know, this is your street here, nearby your street. It's like something, as I say, from a war zone. I mean, how are you feeling about this? This must be really emotional for you.
It's horrific. It's terrifying being on the street at this time, and it's like a war zone, as you can see. But there's no justice where we live, and unfortunately, you see, myself, I am sorry for whatever happened. I sympathize with the family and I pray for the recovery for the victim, but we don't support violence. And my call is to see if we can be together, live together, and support each other instead of fighting against each other.
What I saw was a community out of control. I saw young men just grabbing cars and hopping them over and burning them, and just seemed to randomly just pick a particular car. I don't think they knew who the owner was, and then go on to another car, and then the flames got worse and worse, and then your fear was that the houses that were now burning, there was people in those houses, and while some of us were trying our best to try and keep a cap on it and people to stop doing it, you didn't feel as if you were being listened to. It took me back to an experience in my childhood where Catholics were burnt out of the street I lived in, not far from here. It took me back to people who lived in their own houses, just doing the normal things in life, and for them being Catholics in a Protestant area, they were removed. The same thing was happening to people here. Here we were in 40 years later, where people just living, wanting to make a life, wanting to contribute to our society, because they were different, being burnt out of their houses and being removed. So it was a chilling echo to the past.
They weren't being targeted because of their immigration status or any other facts about them. They were being targeted because of the colour of their skin. That, to me, is wholly unacceptable.
Why do you think it is happening? Because with Nigel Farage, when he says the vast majority of people on the streets were not far right, were not extremists, they were just...
What is this like moderate wing of fascist shit that we've seen so much from people living in the north of Ireland that happen to be Protestants? Why are the Protestant population either Omega Hitler or the moderate version, where it's like, well, they're all criminals, but you shouldn't Molotov cocktail their homes? Why is there not a single person who's just like, yeah, this is really fucked up, except for that one guy, the one guy who was like, we've seen this happen to Catholics in the past, it was really fucked up. Like, for every one normal Protestant guy, there's like 100 spiritually Israeli Protestants in the north of Ireland. It is so fucking strange. What compels you to behave like this in 2026? It doesn't make any sense.
Frightened. Does that include the people who were burning houses, who were burning cars, who in the end forced people who have been living there for 2 decades to have to leave their home in fear?
No, it absolutely does not. There were people who turned up last night who were equipped to riot. They came wearing masks. They came wearing dark clothing that would be hard to identify because they know how the PSNI have identified rioters in previous occasions. So they came with the intent of causing violence. There were social media posts telling people in certain neighbourhoods to turn off their Ring doorbell, to turn off their CCTV cameras so that nothing would be captured. People were being abused who had a phone there. People who were there with the media were being threatened. This was a concerted effort to attack people.
Bro, the Protestants are an occupying force in Ireland. I know, but it's not in 2026. In 2026, the Protestants, I saw it with my own 2 eyes, okay? In this day and age, the Protestant movement and mobilization has basically turned into a group of people that, like, England doesn't want, okay? They're just LARPing. They're LARPing as fake Brits when the British don't even want them. So they're just fucking stuck there as a settler outpost with not a lot of support from England anyway, okay? That's what I mean. It's like nobody likes them. Just be fucking Irish at that point. Just give up. They will kill you, not LARPing. I mean, I know. I'm just saying it doesn't make any fucking sense. They're also incredibly poor. That's the other thing. Like, Belfast is very poor. It's beautiful. There's a lot of great history. And it's some of the coolest. Like, if you think Irish people are cool across the board, the Irish people living in Belfast are the coolest. Okay? Straight up. I have a lot of love. I like them more than I like Dublin. But I just can't comprehend how you would still, at this point, not recognize that, you know, you're working class, they're working class. The British don't want you. You might as well be Irish. Inside the riot, they filmed themselves.
I'm telling you, it's here not plan. That's terrible. That's actually terrible.
That's just the entirety of the North, though. Also, in the UK in general, the poorest person in the Republic is 6 times better off than the poorest person in the UK. What did my boys say? Kneecap. We stand in solidarity with everyone who was impacted by violence, intimidation, threats, and forced displacement in Belfast yesterday. The people behind this do not care about their community and are motivated by racism. Their aim is division. As people from Derry and Belfast, we know only too well that the hatred behind driving families from their homes and the utter hypocrisy of politicians or people in distant lands agitating for division amongst the working class. Yeah, so fucking annoying.
In their homes, those people were racist. The people that they were targeting were not being targeted because they'd done anything wrong.
We talk about outside actors. Elon Musk shared lists on X of local.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. Elon Musk is a fucking international war criminal, dude. Like, it's not enough that he's fucking America up. He's also fucking Europe up as well with Twitter. He's just straight up using Twitter as a weapon. Bel Aviv. That's funny. Don't say
Locations where protests could take place. He retweeted Restore Britain leader Rupert Lowe's post saying millions must go. How dangerous is this? What can you do about it?
It is beyond reckless. It is beyond reckless.
Yeah, by the way, not banned from the UK. Not banned from the UK, by the way. How interesting. Elon Musk could travel to the UK right now, tomorrow, and no one would say a goddamn word. I, on the other hand, am banned from the fucking United Kingdom. Elon Musk is not. Think about that. Think about that. Where's the Labour government's priorities? How many riots does he have to incite until the British government decides, okay, maybe he is a danger. He's an ever-present danger to safety.
And particularly in a society like ours, where there is this history of division and of violence, we are trying to move forward together as a society to make a safe society for everyone. And in doing that, they are sticking labels, they are sticking targets on innocent people's backs. How can the grotesque attack on one innocent man on Monday night justify grotesque attacks on other innocent people last night? These were children in many cases that had nowhere to sleep last night. I met with one young woman yesterday who was in despair. She was sobbing and physically shaking because she was so frightened that because she was from Sudan originally, that she and her mother would be targets of these people because the suspect in this case was Sudanese. What message are we sending to people if we say that because you share the same skin color, then you are as guilty and culpable as the individual who did it? That is not how justice works.
Ian Huntley believes the second time is the charm when it comes to winning a key state assembly seat in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn.
This is me taking another step to deliver more when I see my community struggling.
The high-end clothing retail worker is challenging incumbent Assemblywoman Stephanie Zinnerman for a second time after losing by just a couple hundred votes 2 years ago.
We have rising rents, we have childcare is unaffordable, and we have real struggles that people are experiencing every day, and that's why I'm doing this.
Zinnerman, on the other hand, says Huntley lacks any real experience or connection to the district.
Some people don't want to start from the beginning. They want to, co-op on the progress that has been made. And, I believe if you want to run for office, you should run for office. But I do think that you have to have a resume and you have to have some receipts of having served the people.
Huntley is a member of and is endorsed by the city's chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America. The political organization is looking to grow its ranks in central Brooklyn, where the DSA already has a foothold through officials like City Councilman Chiosei and State Senator Jabari Brisport.
Our politics really try to embrace.
Well, Nev's already drunk. Caroline's not happy with them. Yeah, I'm not surprised. We were supposed to leave 11 minutes ago, and we pushed it back to 7 p.m. So
a multiracial working class. The candidates running in Bed-Stuy are from Brooklyn, are from Bed-Stuy, have built lives there.
The DSA has been criticized for struggling to connect with Black voters and their issues, especially around home ownership. But a recent dispute over an eviction case in the neighborhood has offered an opportunity to bridge the divide.
The same market forces and the same crooks and like capitalist cronies that try to steal from tenants and to try to exploit tenants do the same thing with Black homeowners.
Huntley and other DSA candidates have rallied around the issue, showing support for candidates in state committee races or district leader positions. The push has unsettled longtime leaders who feel the Democratic Socialists remain out of touch with the community.
We have outsiders who are basically trying to determine who should be the leaders of our community.
Henry Butler is a district leader in the area who believes that the move to challenge him by candidates who have support from DSA officials is racist.
You can always find a puppet that will do your bidding. That has always been the way.
As you guys know, the DSA slate is, I think, there's like one white guy. That's it, literally. I think it's Orkin might be the only white guy on the DSA slate. There's literally one. It's so funny. Two? Who's the other white guy? Yeah, the DSA slate is all Latino, Black, Muslim, straight up one white guy, I'm pretty sure. Eli is not on the DSA slate. He's just endorsed by DSA-backed colleagues. Matt Bennett and David Frum are still mad. The DSA left. So Caitlin asks Abdul El Sayed about why he's erasing old posts, including a dozen tweets championing defund the police.
Because my colleagues at K-File here at CNN found that you had deleted thousands of old posts on X, on Twitter, sometime before launching your Senate campaign. Some of those posts included messages that said, that championed the defund the police movement, described the police as, quote, standing.
Why are we treating people saying defund the police at the peak of Black Lives Matter as though they're like saying the N-word and they deleted like bad posts from the past? Isn't that a little fucking nuts? Like, candidates normally go back and like delete slurs that they've said on social media. Okay? And I find it very strange that like we're literally looking at the background of some of these wonderful candidates that are running right now. We're like, well, it says here that you were two-based. Says here that you were in favor of dramatically restructuring the funding vehicle for the police and hopefully tackling some of the root causes of crime. And I think that's basically the same as, you know, saying a slur. Like, how did we get to this point where the media is so overwhelmingly reactionary that we're pearl clutching about a candidate's past statements on an issue like defund the police? Like, they so successfully bastardized what this meant. They so successfully created an environment where, like, even if you were in support of this at the time, like, it should actually tarnish your reputation. This is part of the reason why I, at the time, said defund the police is not a bad statement. It's not a bad slogan, but we are allowing it to become a bad slogan by not accurately explaining what it means. It's the equivalent of with Black Lives Matter, when people were like, oh, Black Lives Matter means all lives, or Black Lives Matter means white lives don't matter. And people were like, no, it just means Black Lives Matter. Right? And they stood firm on that message, and people understood what it meant. Whereas with defund the police, everybody panicked immediately. The Democrats were the first to come out and be like, this is communism, this is bullshit. And now anyone who's ever said defund the police is being treated like they've done a hate crime in the past. It's so strange because, like, to me, it's reflective of how right-wing society has become. Because nobody ever calls into question a fucking politician that says Muslims are not preferable to dogs. I would rather substitute all Muslims with dogs. No one's calling into question politicians that are literally running right now on mass deportation of all Black and brown people. And we're instead doing this shit on the left side where we're like, oh, well, you said defund the police. It's reflective of how how far right we have swung as a society. And yes, it is caused by Dem complicity. Democrats had no investment whatsoever in ever holding cops accountable. That was clear. They wanted to keep giving cops more money. And, they very quickly first tried to neuter the movement. Then they very quickly attacked it and tried to position themselves as being antagonistic to this pie in the sky idealism, endless budgets to law enforcement, basically a domestic occupation force, no accountability whatsoever. What is this? Oh yeah, I mean, it's classic. It's a shame it has to even be stated, but of course, Black Lives Matter. We fucking love you. Keep fighting the good fight so everyone understands this. I want everyone to feel safe, respected, and have all the great opportunities to do great. The replies on this really give good insight on how much fact-checking is being done on X these days. Most of the replies are saying he changed, Lemafayal. Literally not a single person even verified if the tweet was real. Cringe. Wait, the tweet was real. Ah ha ha ha. I'm not even going to delete the main reply. That's just too good.
Armies. Why did you take those posts down?
Well, let me just speak to a vision for public safety that I think all of us can agree with. I think all of us want to be safe. We want to know that we can get home safely. We don't want to worry about being the victim of somebody's violence, whether it's from a neighbor or the state itself. And we got to get serious about the kind of policing we need. And for too long, we have not invested in the kind of recruitment and retention and retirement that has people from local communities wanting to join in and be a part of keeping public safety. But also for too long, our answer to every problem has been someone with a gun, and that's just not always the right answer. I think we can invest in things like community violence intervention. I think we...
So good. God. Love this man, dude. My fucking goat. My king. He's so goddamn good. Boom. Stood firm. Said the part. Said exactly what he means. Respect.
We can invest in things like behavioral response. And that has earned broad agreement, whether you're talking about folks in law enforcement or you're talking about folks who have been long thinking about how to reform our system. So right now, I think we got to get past the past and start thinking about the kind of future where we're actually answering the challenges that people have in their communities with the right kind of resources. And I learned that as leading Wayne County's Department of Health, Human and Veteran Services. I had to rebuild the juvenile detention facility working alongside law enforcement.
So would you say you feel differently than you did before?
Well, look, at that time, I was a professor. I was teaching at the edge of criminal justice and public health. At this point, I'm running for...
Yes, I'm fucking hammered.
Oh, you got the Tims.
Oh, did I get Tims? We got the beef and broccolis, the butters.